The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
G'day world, this is the Sniper of the Skies, Robbie Eagles, and you are listening to Keeping It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review nights 5 through 8 of Best of the Super Junior 30 and Resurgence, and cover all latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating interview. You can also get all the podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWWorld.com. Frequently updated and with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. Visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, how you doing, man?
We are here. We are the best. You have not made a mistake. You're listening to Keeping It Strong Style. There's a reason they call us the Ace of Podcast, Jeremy. You know why that is?
Why is that?
Because we're the best, bro.
The best, the best, the best.
I'm going to cut a promo doing that one day. You have no idea how many promos I cut just on my own that no one ever knows about, no one ever hears.
I still remember that promo you did on Sir Sam for the Rookie and Collab Quiz Invitational.
You know, that's a funny promo. That one's too long. It's a little too wordy. I should have got to the point a little bit quicker, but yeah, I roasted that man, and then I backed up everything I said in a shoot. Okay. That wasn't no work. That wasn't no predetermined thing. I went on that quiz show. I handed him his lunch. I ate his lunch. I don't know what the saying is, but I took him to school, No, but we love Sir Sam, and looking forward to the day that he collaborates with Social Suplex once again and, decides to create some content. But we're here and we've got a lot to talk about. I mean, what? 5, 6, 7, 4 days of Best of the Super Juniors, Resurgence, plus we got finals coming up next week. This is a crazy episode.
Yeah, we got a lot to jump into, so I guess let's not waste any more time and let's get this show rolling here. So let's start off with our Best of the Super Junior review and recap from the last few shows. Like I said, we'll review nights 5 through 8. And we'll do the same format like we did last week. We'll review each block, start at the top of the block. And, of course, tomorrow we have the A block finals. Wednesday is the B block finals. Friday, semifinals. Sunday, the finals. So we'll give you some of our predictions and scenarios on what we think is going to happen going forward to this week as well. So we'll start with the A block here. So currently, as of this recording, leading the A block is Speedball Mike Bailey with 12 points. We got 3 guys with 12 points, but due to tiebreakers and stuff, Speedball got him listed first. So on night 5, he defeated Teton. On night 6, he defeated Doki. On night 7, he lost to Taiji Ishimori. And then on night 8, he defeated Risuke Taguchi. Josh, what have you been thinking about Speedball so far?
I mean, it's almost going to sound very somewhat repetitive at this point. You know, we applauded him and gave him his roses last week. And, you know, I don't know if I expected something to change over the course of the remainder of the tournament, but one of the most consistent things has been the performance of one Speedball Mike Bailey. Like every single night, even if he's not in a main event slot, let's say, he's pretty much trying his best, it seems like, to either steal the show or be in contention for match of the night. And this is pretty, like I said, consistent all throughout. Like he's going out there and it doesn't matter what type of opponent he has. It doesn't matter their age or their skill level or their experience or anything. You know, lots of times we talk about guys and their chemistry with each other. Well, Speedball Mike Bailey just magically seems to have that chemistry with every single person in this entire tournament. Maybe that's a hallmark of, you know, the fact that he's one of the very, very best wrestlers in the world today. And I think he's proving it in this tournament.
Yeah, another great week for Speedball. You know, this week, most of his matches were in that 10-minute range and still very, very, very good matchups. The Taguchi match was really good, and also we'll talk about Taguchi, but, you know, we're seeing big match Taguchi, and him and Speedball had a really fun match. I love the spot in that match where on the outside, Speedball reverses the oh my great ankle and thinks that he throws Taguchi into the post, but Taguchi fakes the sell and gets the advantage on Speedball. But yeah, Speedball has just had a really fun week here. A lot of high pace, high intensity matchups, a Doki match, a Teton match, tons of high flying there. Eating a loss, his second loss to the Bone Soldier Taiji Ishimori here, but he's still in a very good spot. He's still alive going into tomorrow night's A Block finals, and the man who's going to be facing tomorrow night is Lio Rush, who's also with 12 points, 6-2. This past week, Leo, he lost to Doki on night 5. Night 6, he lost to Teton, and then he rebounded with 2 wins. On night 7, he defeated Kushida, and then on night 8, he defeated TJP.
Yeah, Lio Rush, I feel like has obviously, again, another performer in this tournament that we've lauded a lot of praise upon. But I felt like in the early portion of the tournament, like the first week or so, Mike Bailey to me seemed to be maybe the higher peaking performer, not just having, you know, a couple matches that probably were a little bit more top end, but just generally speaking was also, you know, a little more consistent. But Leo has seemed to kind of come on stronger in the second half of the tournament, in my opinion. Now, none of these matches have necessarily reached the heights of the match that he had with Hiromu in their main event, but just in terms of like him being dialed in and kind of just focused, like he's just laser focused right now. It's sort of like maybe there was a little bit of ring rust, but as time's gone on, he's just gotten better and better. The Doki match, 5 minutes and 43 seconds, was really short, but it was super memorable. It was boom, 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 high spot. And then the fact that Doki beat him, I guess you can kind of say that was expected because everyone's going to lose eventually in a tournament like this. But that was an awesome moment for a fan of Doki like me. And I thought Lio Rush made him look incredible in that match.
Yeah, man, it was just a 5-minute banger. And yeah, I popped huge for Doki getting the upset win there. That was a big win for Doki as he's trying to meet his, break his personal best in Super Juniors. And plus for Lio Rush, Leo was on a roll there on top of the block, and to eat a loss like that to Doki was kind of a detriment to him in his quest here to win the A Block.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things where like last week when we were talking about Doki, I started saying I didn't think it was possible for him to, I don't know, like beat his best from the years prior, his best personal record. But don't listen to me. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, obviously. Like, we have this podcast, but I'm clearly wrong. Because, I guess like a mark, I looked at it and I was like, oh, Leo Rush, no way he's winning that match. And then he won it, and I was like, hell yeah, Doki. I never doubted you. But that's one of the things. This has been a very wild, unpredictable tournament. And one of the things I've noticed is as time has gone on, now, Night 8 just passed, and Leo Rush and TJP had an absolute banger.
Yeah, love that match.
So smooth, so crisp, really just top end, I don't even want to call it junior wrestling, top end wrestling, period. And Night 8 seemed to be like we're coming off of this high point for the tournament. But here in the middle, because everything's been so condensed, it's been pretty apparent. A lot of people have been banged up. Match times have been going even shorter. And I think that that's one of the detrimental aspects of the format that they have going, where we have so many nights and so many tournament matches condensed in such a short period of time. And it actually has kind of become interesting in a certain respect because it even plays into the kayfabe. Like, this might be the most difficult Super Juniors tournament of all time, just based on the schedule alone. It's becoming like this Iron Man sprint where everyone's having to go balls to the wall night after night after night. There's only been like 2 rest periods. And I say all that to say this, like, Leo Rush is one of the few guys that has gotten better as time has gone on. Everyone else seems to be slowing down a half step and like kind of needing to take breaks. And he's one of the few guys that's like, no, like, give me more. And like, that kind of proves it with that last match he had with TJP, where it's like, that's one of the big high points of his tournament so far.
Yeah, I feel like performance-wise, he's starting to peak, which is a great point in the tournament to peak going into the block finals and semifinals and stuff like that. And yeah, these guys are all banged up. That TJP match, both Leo and TJP are both all wrapped up in KT tape on the shoulder. Dan Maloney, he's all taped up. A lot of guys are, they're banged up. They're feeling the pain. They're taped up. We'll talk about an injury that we had here in a few minutes. But yeah, these guys are definitely feeling this grueling schedule. But Leo, yeah, he's peaking right now. He's having these great performances. And that TJP match was just a ton of fun, especially, in Cork and Hall. That, jam-packed Cork and lively crowd. And yeah, everything about that match was a ton of fun.
There have been some really great nights, but the 2 nights that kind of just bookend and are the highlights of the tournament are Night 1 and Night 8, and they were both in Cork and Hall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt like the guys knew, like, all right, we're in Cork and we have to show out tonight.
Right, exactly.
So next up, also with 12 points, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, the ticking time bomb, Hiromu Takahashi. On Night 5, he defeated Taguchi. On Night 6, he defeated Kushida. On Night 7, he defeated TJP. And then on Night 8, he defeated Taiji Ishimori by referee's decision due to an injury that happened in the matchup. So Hiromu here rolling off 4 wins this week.
Yeah, he's just he's really on fire as the junior champion, and last week left me with again a lot of egg on my face. We try our best to be as knowledgeable, and I feel like sometimes I put pressure on myself. I don't know if you do this, Jeremy, where we always have to be right. Like, we always got to be ahead. And very often, I mean, I'm not saying we don't, it's not that we have a perfect track record, obviously, but we're usually pretty close to like what a finals tournament is going to be like. Mm-hmm. We're usually pretty much in the money when it comes to saying who's going to have what point totals and yada, yada. And obviously a lot of that comes down to doing this for years and knowing a lot of Gato's booking, the things that he does regularly.
Yeah.
And this week, I thought Hiromu was like going to eat another loss. And I was really counting on that loss to come from Kushida, who we'll talk about him, but I've been wildly off the mark as it pertains to Kushida. And I know you have been too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I feel like Gato is listening to us and he's like, you know what? I got to mix it up. I got to throw these boys off their game, they know my patterns, they know my tropes too well. I got to mix it up.
Yeah, like we know all his tendencies. So, and that was one of the things that we did highlight when we did the preview episode with Chris Amsa, is I mentioned how because they're doing the new format, obviously the tournament doesn't seem that different, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, still 2 blocks, 10 guys, but when you do that 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B final, the way that the point totals have to align, the way that the booking goes, it changes wildly. And a lot of the things that we're used to seeing out of this tournament just are not coming to pass. And so here we're sitting here, 8 nights in, Hiromu's got 12 points. He's still in the running. The one thing that's hurting him, though, is that the 2 guys that are above him in Mike Bailey and Leo Rush are the 2 guys that have beaten him already, and they've got equal points to him. So, without even having to do any sort of like mumbo jumbo math, we already know that unless he gets ahead of one of those 2 guys in the points, he's not going to make it to the finals. If he ties with them, he loses the tiebreaker unless someone else, somehow jumps up and creates a 3-way or 4-way scenario where there needs to be some other, method to determine the person going to the end of the block.
Yeah, and we'll take a look at the scenarios here. We'll preview the A block finals, but yeah,
I haven't even considered any of the scenarios, to be honest with you. I've just been, like I mentioned last week, just like, I got to watch the show. Let's just get through the show. And this is my catch up right now, is like learning where everybody is.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, these are the main 3 guys that are in play here. Bailey, Leo Rush, Hiromu, all big matches coming up tomorrow's show, the A block final. But yeah, Hiromu had a fun week here. The Kushida match was really good, but in a way kind of disappointing, just because we know what those guys can do. We know their history and the great matches they've had in the past, and it was slotted in the semi-main event. They tried some stuff, brawling in the arena, brawling outside on the grass, and then we got
that dirty tall grass.
Yeah. And then we got the count out finish with Kushida failing to get back in the ring before the 20 count. So not quite what you would expect from a Hiromu Kushida match, but it was still a great semi-main event. And then
I was very disappointed in that match for most of the reasons that you mentioned. And it's just these guys, we haven't seen them together in like 6 years. There's so much rich lore that could have been delved into, so many callbacks and things like that. And they're sort of just having a house show match. I mean, they did do some cool stuff. The brawling was fine, but when it just ended in a count out, that's super anticlimactic. They didn't dig into any of the character stuff between them, their history. Like, you would have never, if you didn't know, you would have never been able to tell that these guys had any sort of history with
they were heated rivals.
Right. I mean, literally, that was the passing of the torch. Like, the top of the junior division was Kushida, and the guy he passed it off to was Hiromu, and then Kushida left, and there's a whole thing there, and none of that was delved into. Not even just, I'm not even just talking about like character work, but even just in the match structure, the way. Well, and you know what, we should have known, because it was the semi-main event, and that was very suspicious.
Right, in a random town.
Yeah, in a random town, not on a Corkin or something. We probably should have known, but it is still nonetheless very disappointing.
Yeah. And then the Hiromu TJP match, I love that matchup. We talked about last week is how great TJP is, and yeah, great opportunity there stepping in against Hiromu, and these guys went out here, had a great 20-minute back and forth matchup with Hiromu picking up the win there. Yeah,
that was one where I thought TJP could potentially pick up a win, just play spoiler sort of thing. Didn't happen. The Taguchi match, even though that was only 5 minutes, that was really great. Like we've been talking about how great Taguchi is. Hiromu's been consistently just jiving with every opponent that he wrestles with. And then, night 8, this most recent show, this was the semi-main event. Yeah, the semi-main event, Hiromu versus Ishimori in Corkin. This is, obviously, they've wrestled each other several times since their first meeting at Best of Super Junior Finals in, 2018?
Yeah.
but that's their most famous match, and that occurred in Cork and Hall, and it was in this tournament. So they went out there, and this was the first time all tournament, probably actually in a really long time, where I felt like Ishimori was trying really hard and looked like the motivated younger version of himself. And him, like Hiromu, were just having a classic, in my opinion. I thought the match was awesome. They had a lot of callbacks to that first match that they had.
Right, yeah,
and
brawling
then,
into the crowd.
Yeah, all of that. And like in the first match, Hiromu did that part where they went up to the second tier and he ran the full length of the aisleway and drop kicked him and took the back bump on the cement. And this time Ishimori did it to Hiromu. So it was like a reversal of roles, really cool stuff. And right in the middle of the match, they're probably like 10 minutes in, they're heating up, they're doing all these reversals. Hiromu hoists Ishimori up, and Ishimori gives him a poison rana. And Jeremy, I can tell you, that's where the injury happened. He fell weird on the poison rana on his shoulder, trying to get all the way over, and he immediately grabbed his shoulder, and he just wasn't moving right after that. I've seen a lot of other people hypothesize when they think this happened. I got a pretty keen eye for this. I'm telling you, it happened at the poison rana.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And some people are trying to say it was a concussion, but we got the official report from New Japan. They announced that Ishimori, he's going to be missing the remainder of the tournament due to a cervical vertebrae injury, the injury that he suffered in the match against Hiromu on Sunday. People were speculating that apparently he got hurt after taking a sit-out powerbomb. But like you're saying, I think it might have came off of that the poison rana.
It could have been that the sit-out powerbomb came right after that, but he looked like he was moving weird before they went into that move, you know? So that's just my take on it. He looked wrong after he landed the poison rana. The way he came down and the way he landed, like it just didn't look right. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was the sit-out powerbomb, but they happened literally boom, boom, back to back to one another. It could even be a combination of things.
Yeah, and good job on Red Shoes for seeing that Ishimori was legitimately hurt very seriously and calling for the ref stoppage, even though they were only 10 minutes in. I'm sure they're probably going to go another 5 or 10 minutes and have a great matchup. But yeah, match stopped here. Hiromu wins by referee's decision, ref stoppage, and picks up 2 points to get to 12, which leads us to talk about Taiji Ishimori, who is going to end his tournament at 10 points. So this past week, he defeated Kushida on night 5. He lost to Sho on night 6. Night 7, he defeated Speedball Mike Bailey. And like we just mentioned, on night 8, he lost to Hiromu due to the injury and losing by ref stoppage.
Yeah, since we're already on the subject, our best wishes and thoughts go with Taiji Ishimori and his speedy recovery. Hopefully there's no complications and he comes back healthy and, ready to perform when he's, able to. Aside from that, though, in terms of the actual booking, I do wonder if that was the outcome that was planned or not. You know what I mean? Because when the match ended, I didn't know how they were going to rule it because both men were on the ground at first, and I thought it was a double knockout or something. I didn't know exactly what was happening, and then it took a little bit of time before they went to Hiromu in the corner and raised his hand, and his music came on. I was like, oh, he's getting the 2 points. So I'm wondering, was he supposed to win? And it just happened. Obviously it's not a happy accident, but it fits into the booking that they already had, or if it's something that it's like, oh shit, Ishimori was going to go over, and now we have to basically readjust everything.
Yeah, based off of what is set up for this A block finals, to me it feels like Hiromu was going to win anyway,
regardless.
But I mean, there is a possibility where I think maybe the math could have worked out if Taiji would have won, then Hiromu would have gone into the last night with 10 points, and then would have had a chance to get to 12 to potentially get a tiebreaker scenario, and also that would have left Taiji Ishimori open to either win and get 14 or lose and stay at 12. Then again, a tiebreaker scenario could have played out there as well. But I do think Hiromu was set to go all the way into at least the semifinals, being the junior champion and having this, A1, B1, A2, B2 scenario. And so, yeah, I think, it worked out in their favor with Hiromu getting the points here, moving into the finals of A block.
Well, that's, I guess, in light of everything, fortunate. As far as, preceding that match, I thought Ishimori was having a good but not necessarily great. It was somewhat pretty pedestrian. It seemed to me like on night 8 in the semi-main event spot with Hiromu, he seemed motivated to go out there and really showcase. But the show match was a lot of shenanigans. I was actually surprised that Show picked up a win over him. A lot of Bullet Club bullshit there.
Yeah.
But Ishimori did defeat Kushida, and then he defeated Mike Bailey, which was somewhat surprising, and is another thing that kind of leads me to wonder what the outcome of night 8 was really supposed to be. But you're probably right. But yeah, unfortunately, Ishimori is out, and I guess we do need to talk about the booking moving forward, because typically the way it works in situations like this is unless there's an alternate, and that's pretty rare, the remainder of their tournament opponents just pick up 2 points. So there's only one more night, though, for regular tournament action, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So I guess we'll have to take a look at that. But, whoever Ishimori had on the final night, and I haven't looked myself, so I'm not totally sure, but they're going to win.
Right, yeah. I'm trying to see. So
I know for a fact, though, regardless, it's not Leo Rush and it's not Mike Bailey.
Right.
Because they're facing one another.
It's not Taguchi. It's not Kushida. It's not Doki or Show.
Is it Teton?
No, Teton's facing Hiromu in the main event.
Oh, okay.
So who does that leave? It TJP, it looks like.
Okay. I was going to say, was it Taguchi? Because that would suck if that was Taguchi's only win.
No, Taguchi's facing Kushida.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it looks like it was going to be TJP and Ishimori.
Okay, so we'll talk about TJP in a bit, but I guess that means his tournament's over as well, unfortunately.
Yeah. So next up with 10 points, Teton. He's 5-3. Night 5, he lost to Mike Bailey. Night 6, he defeated Leo Rush. Night 7, he lost to Show. And night 8, he defeated Doki. That win over Leo Rush, very important. So at 10 points going into tomorrow's A Block Finals, Teton is still alive as he faces Hiromu Takahashi. If he beats Hiromu, he does have a chance to advance to the semifinals.
Right, because he'll get to 12 points. He'll have the win over Hiromu, and then he'll have a win over Leo Rush. And were Leo Rush to lose to Mike Bailey, that would give Teton the tiebreaker, and he'd make it into the finals as 1B, essentially, or AB, or what are they calling
A2.
A2. Okay, yeah. Thank you. Teton is a guy who, we've said it before, he's really risen up the ranks of CMLL, and he's the only Mexican CMLL representative in the entire tournament. And over there, he is a top guy. But that's never stopped New Japan from potentially, giving some of these types of competitors a 500 record or just slightly over that. And that's sort of where I saw Teton going. But they've made it pretty clear. They've at least given him 5-3. He's perhaps looking at 6-3, which is a phenomenal tournament and maybe even a bid to the finals. I'm not ready to say he's quite at the level of say, in terms of kayfabe in New Japan from management. I wouldn't say he's the new Dragon Lee, but he might be the new Volador.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is probably one of the best bookings he's had in one of these tournaments. Like you mentioned, usually he's going 3-6, maybe 4-5, but to my memory, I think it's the best that he's done in recent years. And the association with LIJ, the recent tag team up with Bushi, and the feud that he had with Catch 2-2, and just some of the stuff that he's been doing in Mexico as well, definitely has elevated his stock, elevated his game, and yeah, this is the best he's been booked in New Japan. And yeah, he's kind of fitting into that kind of top luchador spot. Also, maybe not quite Dragon Lee, but like you mentioned, like, yeah, Volador Jr. type spot.
And I don't think that there's been necessarily too many main events with Teton, too many matches where you're like, oh my God, you got to go out of your way and watch it. But if you're just paying attention to the tournament every night, every Teton match is like super enjoyable, very fun. I know it was only 6 minutes.
The Doki match?
The Doki match was just so fucking good.
Bro,
it might be that's probably my favorite Doki match of the tournament.
I went 3.5 on it.
It's only 6 minutes, and it's nothing but RLPW. Just straight dives, people
right from the
flying,
bell. Yeah.
like just crazy. I mean, that was literally like a Friday night, like Arena Mexico style, like lucha spot fest. It was just fucking awesome. I loved it. The only thing that sucked was I wanted Doki to win, but
same. He was so close. He kept getting the Italian stretch 32 on him, and it looked like he was going to tap out. But yeah, Teton was able to escape and get the win.
I don't know if you noticed, but that match was like almost all Teton diving and Doki just putting on submissions. Doki didn't even fly that much.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Teton doing more of the flying in that one.
But yeah, Teton's been awesome. And who knows? I mean, I guess we'll talk about our preview for next week, but he's alive.
Yeah. So then next up, TJP. So currently he's at 8 points. He was supposed to face Ishimori tomorrow in the A block final. So at the end of tomorrow's show, he'll end the tournament 5-4 with 10 points. So on night 5, he defeated Sho. Night 6, he defeated Taguchi. Night 7, he lost to Hiromu. And then on night 8, he lost to Leo Rush. And we had a question from Reddit user Semi-Hat. Why isn't TJP a superstar?
Well, that is maybe not a question I could answer succinctly. I'm not totally sure. There's a lot of things kind of going against the guy. Like, he's up until the last decade, he was never really firmly involved in any major companies in a meaningful way. So, I mean, he was always sort of like an independent darling, someone that like, the most diehard fans knew about, but, working ROH, working Impact, the Suicide, stuff like that. And, working out of the LA dojo, like that's not enough to really make you a superstar. Mm-hmm. And the one big opportunity that he did have was after the Cruiserweight Classic. It seemed like they were going to build that division around him. And, like most things that WWE tries, they fucked it up. And, I think if there's a really great series going on over at Voices of Wrestling, what is that? They're reviewing the entire like Cruiserweight Classic.
Yeah, I think it's called Sky's the Limit. I think it's called.
You should check that out, because now that we're, almost a decade, we're like 7-8 years away from the Cruiserweight Classic. There's a lot more insight that we have as to what was going on there. And it, I don't want to steal their thunder, but it really wasn't actually a celebration of junior independent style or international wrestling as much as it was a blockade to stop the rise of these stars from, basically doing what AEW ended up doing.
Right. Yeah.
And, they tried to build that division around TJP, and I actually don't even blame him necessarily, but go back and read some of his interviews about his time with WWE, and he'll tell you like why he didn't enjoy working there and what his issues were. And, it was basically a place where he was creatively stifled, where he wasn't able to have the kind of matches he wanted to have, wrestle the way he wanted to wrestle. They didn't necessarily give him the best creative to endear himself. Look at some of those early feuds that he had going on, where they just kind of made him look like a nobody.
Yeah, I think like the first Raw that featured the Cruiserweights, he wasn't even on the show, I don't think, or like he had a very quick like runner or something like that.
I remember he had a feud with like Brian Kendrick, where Brian Kendrick was like kicking him in the balls, and it was like it was the prototype of what AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura became later on. So I don't know if he was ever really given the platform and opportunity to be like a quote unquote superstar. Then you combine that with some of his outside wrestling activities, some of the stuff that he's been involved in on social media, for better or for worse, it's not necessarily endeared him to a large section of the fan base, especially like the hardcore audience. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think right now is probably the apex of his long career, even though he's a young guy, he's been wrestling forever. I just don't think anyone's ever figured out how to utilize him properly. And we're kind of in this weird place where like New Japan seems to be the perfect fit right now for guys like TJP and like a Leo Rush, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think New Japan, this has probably been the best utilization of him that I've ever seen since I've been watching him wrestle. You mentioned a lot of that early independent stuff, in ROH and stuff like that. He wrestled a ton under a mask, whether it was like the suicide gimmick, or I think wasn't he like a Puma Kid at one point? Like,
yeah,
he had all these different like mask gimmicks that he would do. So you never really got that
Pinoy
face,
boy.
Yeah, Pinoy boy. You never really got that face recognition. He did the Evolve stuff, but again, that was very kind of, diehard hardcore fans were watching Evolve. Then you get to the Cruiserweight Classic and 205 Live in the WWE run, and like you mentioned, just a misutilization of him, and they were never really serious about pushing the division in the first place. So that was like the biggest platform he had until now. But here in New Japan, I think like the New Japan Strong run, parlayed into him joining United Empire, forming Catch 2-2 with Francisco Akira. I think, like you mentioned, this is kind of like the peak right now of his career, the proper utilization. He's super over in Japan. The crowds have been loving his matches, and like I would totally be fine if they decided to give him a junior title run at some point.
Yeah, I totally agree. And TJP too is one of these guys that was there for the initial onset of what would become Strong. But like when they were doing the US tours, even before Strong was ever a thought, we're talking 2018, 2019. He was one of those initial, North American talents that New Japan was bringing in to work those tours. And I mean, when you kind of think about it, the guy was working WWE not that long before that. He was working Impact. He didn't necessarily need to be doing those little indie, New Japan spot shows in like Nashville and St. Pete and stuff like that. But he was around and he's kind of stuck through it. And I'm glad that he's still here and doing what he's doing, and just so impressive. And from this point forward, just so we're kind of clear, he is kind of the point where no one after him is alive in this tournament. So like the guys that we discussed prior to this, they're still mostly alive, but like TJP can't make it to the finals now, even with this automatic win. And the rest of the guys that are in the A block, they're pretty much all eliminated.
Yeah, so the rest of the guys we'll talk about, TJP and below, all these guys will be fighting for pride tomorrow night on the A block finals, just fighting to get those last 2 points and to kind of end on a good foot here and make a claim for their bid for the next year. So first we'll talk about our boy Doki Japones del Mal, currently at 6 points. He has to win tomorrow's match if he wants to get to 8 points and beat his personal best of 6 points. So on night 5 he defeated Leo Rush. Night 6 he lost to Speedball. Night 7, he defeated Taguchi, and then on night 8, he lost to Teton.
I really disagree with them having him lose to Mike Bailey. I don't know what you needed to do in the points, but I would have loved for him to just beat Leo Rush and then beat Mike Bailey the next night. And then, like, even though it's like I'm eliminated and I'm not in the running, I beat the two guys that made the finals or whatever, however that's going to play out. Like, that would have been cool.
Yeah, they could have shifted it up somehow, but yeah, that would have been a great kind of story for Doki, being like, yeah, I beat two ties in the top block. Like, I deserve some kind of title shot based off of that.
Like, my perfect booking of Doki is like he beats Leo Rush, he beats Mike Bailey, he beats Hiromu, and then he beats Taguchi, Teton, TJP, and Show, and then he wins the tournament, and then he wins the title.
So you're giving him the hardcore Holly push.
What would we do if we put the title on you, Doki? I beat everybody.
And then he goes on, he defends the title against everybody in B block and beats all those guys.
Oh man. But Doki's been awesome in this tournament, and I'm really I guess we'll talk about it. I don't know who he has on the final night, but like he's gotta beat them. I don't care who it is. It could be Hiroshi Tanahashi. He needs to beat them. Period.
On the final night, he has Show.
Oh, that makes it so much easier. Oh my God. And we're going to talk about Show. Well, he's up next, but yeah, that's going to be an interesting match.
Yeah, so Show, it's also at 6 points, 3-5. Night 5, he lost to TJP. Night 6, he defeated Taiji Shimori. Night 7, he defeated Teton. And then on night 8, he lost to Kushida. So another week of a lot of Show shenanigans. We've been seeing Evil come out more, seconding him, and each night there's a new kind of plan to try to trick their opponent. Worked out on night 6 and night 7 against Ishimori and Teton, but failed against TJP and Kushida.
Yeah, so, I guess I don't think I was looking at this tournament with the most discerning eye. And last week we were I felt so overwhelmed. There's so much going on with the show. And it's like, I don't know if I was putting my best foot forward when it came to analyzing what's been happening. But after we got done with the show and I started paying a little bit more attention to show, I'm like, oh, hold on. There's a story playing out here. And it is interesting. I don't know why I didn't notice it last week, but like, there's no anybody from House of Torture with him. Like, there's no Dick Togo. There's no Yujiro or anything like that. It's just Evil. And Evil is obviously the leader of the subunit, but I can't remember any time prior to this. That should have been a big like ding, 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 like red alert last week, but he's never been the guy that seconds or follows or interferes for show. Like, that's a big red flag.
Yeah, and usually it's either like the whole group or it's just Dick Togo if there's going to be a solo guy.
Exactly. And then the other thing too is like, it's kind of started innocuously. Like, I don't even know if I said that word right, but like in the beginning of the tour, it was just Evil kind of jumping guys from out of the darkness as they walked to the ring. And then as the tournament has progressed, his different methods of cheating have become more and more pronounced. And there's just been a lot of weird things. Like, there's a weird tension and energy between the two of them. And Show is not winning. He's 3-6. He got 3-5. He got eliminated very quickly into the tournament. I mean, almost immediately. Last week when we were on the show, I was like, he's pretty much done. And that's proven to be true. So I got that one right, thank God. But I'm wondering, Jeremy, and I know people have been wondering things about this, but like you and I, we met up Friday to help Rich move for his big move to Atlanta. What's up, Rich?
What's up, Rich?
And we were talking. I was like, dude, I think this might be, and maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like this could be the storyline that rids Show of House of Torture, because it's feeling like it's leading that way.
Yeah, I think, Evil, he's been the only heavyweight that's been on the tour. And again, you mentioned he's the leader, so it definitely seems like there's something coming, especially since most of the time, most nights, the plan has been failing. I know they did tease the one night against TJP where Evil was wearing, United Empire shirt and he had a United Empire flag. And he's like, no, I'm seconding you, not Show. And so they've been kind of like teasing some stuff, a little dissension, but it always kind of end up being a ruse. But then there are some nights where there seems to be some tension and the plans fail. Like the Kushida plan, he had the metal plate in his leg and his kick pad, trying to beat Kushida that way. And
I thought he was beating Kushida because, and we'll talk about Kushida next, but like he's been in even somehow bigger disappointment in the points total than Show, which I did not see coming at all. But yeah, they use that kick pad gimmick with putting the metal in there. And they had me biting on that one. I actually kind of enjoyed that match.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was fine. It was a little bit different of a formula than what they were doing in the other matches. But yeah, that backfired. Kushida was able to get the win there. So yeah, so it definitely seems like I can imagine maybe leading into the final night that maybe we'll get some kind of blow up between Evil or Show. Maybe Show will finally just kind of be done, dealing with Evil and his plans not working.
Yeah, it might be just wishful thinking, of course, but when have we ever said they're doing a story with Show and it's leading to him leaving the House of Torture? That's never actually felt like a thing. And you and I really don't move in those kinds of groups where they do the fantasy booking sort of shit. You know what I mean? Like, we're only going to kind of predict something if there's some sort of like evidence that something is clearly happening on some level. And all tournament, he has really struggled. He's lost almost all of his matches. I don't know how privy to the stories Kevin Kelly or Chris Charlton are, but they seem to be doing an extra heavy duty job of just burying Show 10 feet under and really taking him to task, talking about how great he used to be and how promising he was, and he squandered it all. And now years have passed and he's no better for it. And like, it's very almost kind of heavy handed. Mm-hmm. And it's not, and if this was something that Kevin Kelly was always doing prior to this, I wouldn't give it much thought. But because it's so overt, and then you kind of combine that with, why is Evil following him out? Like, what is that about? He never did before. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Dick Togo has vacation and like he's, but at the same time, it's like, Show's had, since he turned in the last two or three tournaments, he's had much, much better tournaments in terms of success points wise. And he's at the bottom of the barrel. It kind of reminds me of, other times where guys have been struggling and then they were able to turn it around and go in a different trajectory with their character or their career. So I think there is some smoke to this fire. I don't know if it's going to play out on night 9, but with Doki being the guy, Doki is sort of like, he can beat anybody. He's proven like he's in the mix, but he is still kind of kayfabe seen as like
the bottom man.
Yeah, he's like a bottom guy, and especially under Show. Like, Show's a guy who like was at the top of the division at one point. He's had title shots. I don't think Doki's ever had a title shot. He's beaten, Shingo Takagi clean in singles action before. Like, that's the kind of guy Show used to be. And if he can't beat Doki, cheating with House of Torture, I could see there being a collision between him and Evil that, leads to his departure. I'm also wondering, House of Torture is only 4 guys. Think about how many units have shown up in New Japan in the past year. Do we even, and I'm not even saying this because, obviously we hate House of Torture. We bury them, that's a given. Everybody does that. But like, just from a practical standpoint, is there a need for them anymore?
Right, especially being a part of Bullet Club, and there's definitely some shakeup there, and Dave Finley's changing some things around. I mean, this could be the time to do a shakeup with House of Torture. And, something that was very, kind of eye-opening to me was on this Korakuen night when they flashed the graphic of Kushida versus Show. The crowd popped because they remembered the old Show. They remember the matches that Show and Kushida used to have, and they were hoping they were going to see something like that. And they didn't, but the fans, they would pop if Show turned back babyface and started wrestling like the old Show, the Roppongi 30K show.
Did you notice that they did actually start working the match that way, though?
Yeah, because Show, he got on the mic, he's like, he's like, it doesn't matter, I'm out of the tournament, but I'm going to wrestle clean, let's do this, let's show these Korakuen people like what we can do, let's do a clean match.
They started working that match in a way that only those two guys are capable of. And if you guys are listening and you've never seen the Kushida Show, the last match that they had from Super Juniors a few years back, and you're someone that's into high level grappling, in the context of New Japan, you should really check that match out because it is underrated and it's really incredible.
Yeah, so I think definitely we got to keep our eyes open here for the remainder of this tournament to see what happens between Evil and Show and House of Torture, and just kind of where that lies for Show's future.
It could go the other way too. I'm not saying it's for sure going to be him leaving. There could be something where this motivates him to flip a switch and then go the opposite way and double down on his evil ways and stick with like it might be a red herring, the idea that they're teasing he's leaving, and in actuality it turns out that he sticks with them, but through this like leans in more to what he's doing so that it elevates him in the division. That's also a possibility, but if I was a betting man, I'm guessing they're going to have him go the other way.
Yeah, I think it makes all sense. I mean, now is a good time for shakeups. We're seeing a ton of shakeups right now with factions and new guys coming in. I think now would be a great time to get him back as a top bay face in the division.
Speaking of shakeups, we got Kushida next.
Yeah, so Kushida, he's 2-6 right now, 4 points. Night 5, he lost Ishimori. Night 6, he lost to Hiromu Takahashi by countout. Night 7, he lost to Leo Rush. And then, like we just mentioned, Night 8, he defeated Sho. So, last week we were talking about, this seems like the perfect setup for the comeback. He's down 0-4 or 0-3, whatever it was last week. And we're like, oh, he's going to rally up. He's going to win his remaining matches. He's going to end with 10, 12 points. He's potentially going to be alive in the finals, and boy, were we wrong.
Thank God I am not a gambling man, because if you had given me the option to put some serious money on the on the possibility that he comes back and turns things around and is sort of this comeback story for the block, which I don't know if you've noticed, there really has not been a big comeback story. We were really banking on that idea, and it just never happened, which is another departure from some of the classic booking that Gato likes to do. But the other thing, too, is it really seemed like Kushida as a character was cool as a cucumber. Like, he had some early losses. It just kind of swept off of his back. He wasn't worried about it. Been here before. Been here plenty of times. He's having a lot of success outside of New Japan, and prior to the tournament, he's been doing really well in Impact and everything like that. And it just seemed like he was poised to have a great tournament. And from an in-ring perspective, he has. But then after last week's recording, like, he just kept losing, which is
baffling.
So shocking, so baffling that I'm actually not sure if it's a situation where, like, we were talking to Rich about this Friday, and Rich was like, yeah, man, he went to WWE, got worse.
Yeah. got thrown in the trash.
Yeah, he's like, this man walked out on Shinigami when they need him the most. Now he's learning what it feels like, which maybe there's something to that. I don't know if this is okay. So, like, no. Backing up a little bit. When he first came back, there were the reports that he was potentially interested in changing his gimmick, changing his character, going a different way, maybe doing something more MMA based, or maybe doing something more, heelish, something that was just a different coat of paint. And then that never happened. And then he was just happy-go-lucky, time splitter guy, Also, why? We were talking about this the other day. What made this man just be like, I want my gimmick to be Marty McFly?
Yeah, that man watched the movie and it was just like, this is it. Like, this is my life. Like,
I think that conversation went something like, I really like Back to the Future. Like, oh, that's great. We could definitely work with that. You could do something like futuristic or cyberpunk. He's like, no, you misunderstand. I want to be Marty McFly. All right. But anyways, obviously there was the setbacks with his illness when he contracted foot and mouth. What is it?
Hand, foot, and mouth disease.
Hoof, foot, and mouth disease. And he never got his title shot. Never was really factored into the bigger picture. Wasn't on Wrestle Kingdom and all that sort of stuff. So we sort of felt like this tournament was going to be his reemergence and reutilization and acclimation to the division. And it has not been that way. And I don't know if it's like show, a setup for something, or if this is, maybe I'm being a mark, but I don't know if this is just how they see him right now. And that's interesting. I really can't tell you what this means.
Yeah, I feel like it's leading to some kind of change. Interesting thing, his tag team partner, Kevin Knight in the B block has 3-5, so has a better record than him right now, which you would think it'd be the other way around with Kevin Knight being the younger guy, the more inexperienced guy. So I kind of feel it's going to lead to them breaking up and leading to a heel turn. Like, I can feel like you have Kevin Knight kind of end with a better record than him, and then they defend the titles against whoever, lose a belt, and then Kushida just snaps and loses it, turns heel, and joins one of the heel units.
This is one of the things that I think is best about this tournament. I've been critical about a few things, obviously. I do think that having so many shows in such a short amount of time has been detrimental, but also there have been some positives. It's give and take. Mm-hmm. But A block has been, in my opinion, far and away the better of the two blocks. And B block's still very good, but this is one of the key reasons. Look at the bottom of the block. This is not a bottom block where guys are just sucking and losing and they're non-factors. Like, they're not Bushi,
Right.
These are guys who are having great matches and have a investable story tied to what's going on with their character, and there are shifts happening dynamically in the actual division. We've been watching a lot of these Super Juniors for the past, like all the pandemic era ones, and none of them had this level of like high level booking and character development. Like, this actually feels like a really important tournament. And look at these guys at the bottom, with Kushida and Sho and Doki and Taguchi, they all have narratives that all are investable and all important. And yeah, I am interested. I'm still baffled about the Kushida thing because I think you and I both thought he was going to be in the finals.
I had Kushida versus Desperado as my overall finals. Like, I thought that was going to be the finals. Kushida's big comeback. He's back in Japan. When he left, he was the ace of the division. Let's throw him back in there. Let's have this big main event with Desperado. Because when he came back, he got a big pop. The crowd was very happy he was back. He's a star. He just was off of WWE TV. He was a top star in New Japan before he left. Like, to me, it made sense to write, all right, we got a star back. Let's elevate him and utilize him and top of the division.
There have been 2 times on commentary where other competitors from the tournament were doing commentary, and they both said, I don't know if Kushida can still hack it. Right?
Yeah, I think Robbie said that. Yeah,
Robbie said that, and I feel like someone else might have echoed those similar sentiments. That being said, I don't know if that's quite the story that's going on here, because that seems to clearly be Taguchi's story, right? Mm-hmm. But it is interesting because Kushida was having so much success outside of New Japan leading to the tournament. Now he's here, and he just can't seem to put together a winning, campaign, and he's totally out, and he's a non-factor, and it's very interesting. And I am wondering now here's the thing. I do have that fear that it's not leading anywhere, and this is just what it is. Like, he's, like a freelance guy that, like, his time has passed and they're glad to have him around, But that's how you and I were kind of talking about Sonata before they like pulled the trigger on his turn and Ascension, and we probably were off on that. So I'm not ready to throw in the Talon Kushida and be like, they don't see anything in him, but I'm nervous.
Yeah, and maybe at the very least, it's just one of those stories of where you have a really talented guy who has a great game plan, but for whatever reason, it's just not working out. You see a lot of time in sports and in combat where you have 2 great fighters and the guy does everything right, but he just can't get the knockout blow. He just can't beat the other guy. That's
been the story of every wrestling match I've been involved in. do everything right, but I just can't get the W. I don't know why. Weird.
Well, let's talk about the last guy in the block here, Ryusuke Taguchi, who's 0-8, 0 points. Night 5, losing to Hiromu. Night 6, losing to TJP. Night 7, losing to Doki. And Night 8, losing to Speedball.
Taguchi's been one of the absolute highlights of this tournament. Every single night. I know the matches are fairly short, but they've just really blown me away. And they remind me of why I've always liked Taguchi. And this is literally the epitome of don't judge a book by its cover. Because, yeah, he looks like the perverted old man, you know, in the terrible gear that's all ripped and shredded, who does the butt shit and all that. But, you know, it's kind of been like the reason why every year I'm like, can't count out Taguchi, because I'm always expecting 1 or 2 nights where he does this. And instead we've gotten 8 nights where he goes out there and he just knocks it out of the park. And clearly he's got no wins. But that's the story. Like, he's not the booker. He didn't book himself to to lose all these matches. It is reminiscent in many ways of some of the final tournaments of such legends of, like, you know, Jushin Thunder Liger or Kojima or Nagata when they're on their way out. And maybe this is the signaling that Taguchi is firmly in dad status in New Japan. And that might be the case. I don't know. But he's treated this tournament with nothing but the utmost seriousness. He's gone out there and busted his ass. This is the best string of matches that he's had in years.
Yeah.
Probably since 2016, maybe even going back further than that. Turned back the clock, shown everybody why he, you know, is been in this tournament for 20 years and is so well respected and regarded by his peers. And I'm hoping he gets that win on the final night.
Yeah, this man's been wrestling his heart out this whole tournament, and especially this last week. Also, a lot of really fun matches. I mean, the TJP match, that was a lot of fun. The Doki match, I thought, you know, Doki's one of those guys where potentially he could have won. He could have gotten that one win in the tournament, but couldn't get it done there with Doki. And then, you know, the Speedball Mike Bailey match, that was just another really fun matchup, and you know, having to keep up with the speed and high flying of Speedball was just a really fun match. So yeah, Taguchi has been just absolutely killing it. You know, we're joking and talking about, you know, we're not getting big match Taguchi this year, but he came out here and he proved us wrong. And he came out here and has been having some really solid wrestling matches, and has been a highlight to watch in the A block. All right, let's move on over to the B block. So on top of the block for the B block, we have 3 guys with 12 points. Start off with Master Wato. So he's 6-2, 12 points. Night 5, he defeated Dan Maloney. Night 6, he defeated Robbie Eagles. Night 7, defeating Clark Connors, and Night 8 defeating Bushi. So Wato rolling up 4 straight victories in a row here.
Yeah, this was a guy that only had 4 points last week and was someone that we were like, yeah, he's like a fringe contender. Now he's sitting at the top of the block. And I got to tell you, Jeremy, of the 3 guys at the very, very top, I think I'm the most impressed with Wato in this tournament run, even beyond Yo and Desperado in the B block. Because, yeah, we've always talked about how, like, he does cool flips, and there's, you know, been an issue when it comes to, like, confidence. But that's really diminished and kind of become a subsiding thing. And in this tournament, as time has gone on, you know how we talked about how Leo Rush seems to be kind of peaking, but that's more of, like, in my opinion, a performance thing. Wato, to me, has seemed to be a guy that has gained more and more confidence as the tournament has progressed. And you combine that with how his in-ring has improved over the past few years. He's gotten more comfortable. But the big story beyond all of that is this integration of the Mount Everest,
German
suplex, which like they've mentioned a few different people have used that. The most notable one to me is like Yoshihiro Takayama. That's the guy that I most closely associate that move with. But every single time he hits that move on somebody, it's lights out. And I love that move because it's like they go so high and then it's this big slow boom and it brings them down. And to me, it's just a really believable finish. And I think it fits Wato to a T, and it's, put him at the epicenter of this B block. And yeah, I guess we're going to talk about scenarios here in just a little bit, but I think it's very plausible that he wins the block. I think it's very plausible that he wins this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing the push, of Wato Mania, him getting into the 4-way at Wrestle Kingdom for the junior title. And we were talking about last week, there hasn't been a ton of follow-up on that push. And so it seems like, they're kind of getting back on the momentum here with that push and kind of elevating him. We are in a youth movement right now. A lot of young guys are getting elevated, getting pushed. And so this could be, Wato's time. He could at least get into the finals, maybe the semifinals, and really show out here and get an opportunity to be pushed to the top of the division.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm certain guys in this tournament, like Yo or Sho, I'm like, damn, like Kawato's passing me. But yeah, I mean, I think he's really just had a great tournament, and it is one of those things. I'm sure there's probably some people that are, maybe not following the tournament as closely, and they're like, Wato, the blue hair guy, like he's at the top, but he had a really incredible showing in January at that 4-way where it seemed like they were ready to put the title on him. And I am still of the opinion, no matter who wins this tournament, that Hiromu is not dropping the title to them. I really do. I'm bought in on the idea that they're going for the title defense record with Hiromu. That being said, I'm not totally. I mean, if Wato were to win this and then he's the next guy that gets the title shot, I'd be kind of torn that he not lose again. And I might feel like maybe there's a very substantial chance that he is the guy that kind of takes the title off Hiromu.
Yeah, maybe you set a story up where he gets close to beating Hiromu, and then like once Hiromu hits the record, he is the guy to beat Hiromu.
Oh no, I'm saying I think that he's the one person in this tournament that if he wins this tournament, I'll be like 50-50 on whether or not he beats Hiromu for the belt out the gate, ending Hiromu's all-time record defense deal.
Yeah.
He's the only one that I see as being someone where, because think about it, he just lost that big title match in January. And it's like, I know New Japan's a lot about delayed gratification and long form storytelling, but like, do you really want to do that? I mean, first off, it's the junior title. Okay. The second thing is like, do you want to ice Wato again? And they've already iced him a few times at this point. A lot of times when people win this tournament, they do go on to win the title in their next title shot, as opposed to like, say, the G1. It's a lot harder, it seems like, just from a numerical standpoint. But yeah, I think he's the one person where if he wins the tournament, I could see him beating Hiromu.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting move. I mean, you talk about the youth movement and the youth push, like that would definitely be a shock to the system right there.
Yeah.
So next up, Yo also has 12 points. He also had 4 wins in a row. Night 5, defeating Desperado. Night 6, defeating Francisco Akira. Night 7, defeating Bushi. And night 8, he defeated Kevin Knight.
Yeah, I'm a little I don't know. I don't know how to feel about Yo, because it's like every time I start to count him out, he kind of turns around and he starts doing cool stuff again. But I don't know. Like I don't feel like I'm seeing someone that's fired up to win this tournament right now.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like we are maybe seeing things differently because we have a question here from Hawaiian Punch BV. He says, have you guys finally turned around on these Yo performances? And plus, there's some stuff I've been seeing on social media. I feel like a lot of people are into the Yo thing right now. They're impressed with him. They think he's one of the top performers in the tournament, but I'm not seeing it that way.
The Desperado match was really great.
Yeah.
There's no getting around that. But to me, it's like, I don't know. And I don't even want to call it bias. I don't think right now he's to my taste because it's like he's just doing a bunch of tribute spots. You know, he's doing stuff that all the Hantai guys and legends did before him. And his matches aren't really heating up that much. He's kind of still just rolling people up. Like, he reminds me in a lot of ways, and I don't mean this in a like current day Sonata. I'm talking about before Just Five Guys. He reminds me of Junior Sonata, a guy that like has all the tools. There's no reason he shouldn't be a top guy. He's creative. He's got good looks. You know, he's clearly a great hand. But then he just seems so uninspired a lot of the time. And he goes out there and he just rolls people up. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I've been watching Sonata and ZSJ do wacky roll-ups for years, and it's been a lot more interesting than this. I don't know. I'm just not into it. Plus, I don't know what the character is. Like he's wearing denim now. Like, all right, cool. You got denim on. And like, I know the commentary team's like, this is such a departure from the traditionalism. I'm like, he's wearing denim, bro. Like John Cena's was the biggest draw in the world for 20 years wearing denim. Like, that's not that. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Overall, to me, I feel like most of his performances have just been just kind of fine. Like, also, yeah, the Desperado match, night 5, that was a great match. But then you look at, the Akira match. That was a 1 minute and 34-second match, quick roll-up. The Bushi match, it was just kind of there. And then the Kevin Knight match, I don't know. That match was there was some sloppiness to that match. I know Kevin Knight's still green, but I also feel like Yo's a veteran didn't really like lead him well through that match either. And so for me, after this past week, I'm just kind of like, with him, at 12 points, potentially going to be going into the semifinals. I'm just kind of like, I'm just not jazzed up right now. Maybe once he gets to semifinals and finals, maybe he'll show out and have a great performance, but I don't want to wait till then. Like, show me the goods now. And
I can't tell you that Yo is like the worst thing ever or anything like that, but he's just not a guy that I relate to or really get. I don't think. I could see him making it into the into the semifinals. I could see him making it to the finals, and there's no reason he couldn't win. It's best Super Juniors, and he's already been to the finals before, so it's plausible that he can make it and win. But even if the matches could still be great, like we've seen him deliver in the big spot when called upon, but I just don't get excited by him. You know, that's my problem. Like, he's just not exciting, dude. Like, I want to see him go out there and be a fucking star. Go be a star, dude. Like, how long have we been watching the show now? 8 years? 9 years?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
come on.
They came back from excursion like right when the show started, right? Like 2017.
Yeah, it was like 2017, and we were watching him before that. Like, it's taken a long time to get here. A long time. And I am like you. I am of the opinion that Yo is a fantastic tag team wrestler. I think he's a tag guy.
Yeah. I mean, because you put him in there with Sho. You put him in there with Leo Rush. You put him in the never 6-man situations with like Ishii or with Bishamon and those guys. And like the matches are always great. He's always great in those matches. But then when you put him in single situation, it's hit or miss. Like you said, when he gets a big main event, a big stage, he delivers. But then, these nights when he's in there against a guy like Bushi or Kevin Knight or, some of these other guys, Robbie Eagles, is like, come on, man, like show us something in those matches too, in some of the smaller spots.
Here's the thing I will say. What's great about New Japan, everybody that's in New Japan, almost everybody, 90% of the talent are so good that if they really wanted to turn up the heat on somebody and turn them into a star, they could do it. We saw it with Sonata, and they completely turned me entirely on Seiya Sonata. So you never know. They could probably do that with Yo if needed. But right now, this Yo, this guy that I'm watching night in and night out, even in those great matches, it's like they're great in spite of him. Like, I don't like the character. I don't get it. And if he was like, I don't know, I'd rather see Doki. Like, look at how many guys are in A block. I just think there's so much better talent in this division than Yo at this point. Like, it's a really fucking stacked division. And like, yeah, Yo's good, but like, I'd rather take I would invest more money in 40-year-old Kushida than Yo. Okay?
Yeah.
I would put more money in Ryosuke Taguchi with 0 wins and 8 losses than Yo. Okay, I don't see the upside. And I'm still higher on Show.
There's hope for Show.
I take everybody. I take every single individual performer in the A block over Show sitting at 12 points at the top of B block. Or I'm sorry, Yo. My bad. That ruined my point, but the effectiveness of my delivery. But yeah, I take all those guys over Yo right now.
Yeah. Not feeling it. But the other guy at 12 points is
Bro, the only person in this tournament that I'm lower on is Bushi. I'm serious. Out of 20 guys, Bushi's at the bottom, and then Yo is right 19. Above him. Yo's 19 to me, bro. I'd rather invest money in, and I don't even mean this in a derogatory way, but like guys that are less of known quantities, like Kevin Knight and Dan Maloney. Give me them all day. At least I've seen something from them in this tournament.
Yeah, I agree with you. So El Esperado also at 12 points. So on night 5, he lost to Yo. Night 6, defeated Clark Connors. Night 7, defeated Dan Maloney. And night 8, defeated Francisco Akira in a great main event in Korakuen Hall.
I think Desperado versus Francesco Akira is the first, in my opinion, truly great breakout match of this tournament. I think it is the match of the tournament, and it blew me away. I loved that match. I liked it better. I know you were really high on like Hiromu and Speedball from night 1. I liked this better than that even.
Yeah, I went the same rating on it. I went 4.5 on Akira and Despy also. But yeah, it was just an emotional roller coaster. This was a breakout moment for Akira. And the crowd behind him and him just selling the leg and fighting through the pain of being locked in numero dos and TJP out there and trying to throw a towel in. Like, there was just so many elements that were working well in this match. It was hitting on super high levels. And of course, it definitely helped being in Korakuen Hall and that crowd just being so rabid and being behind the underdogs and being behind Akira. So yeah, everything about that match was just magic and definitely one of the top matches of this whole tournament.
Yeah, Despy's a guy who, when he hits so high, right? Like the Yo match, the Francesco Akira match, those main events, top end, like top notch. And I'm not saying the rest of his tournament hasn't been good. It has been good. It's just kind of been sleepy, kind of there. And he's like sneakily at the top of the block, but you kind of, and like deep down, if you really know the product, he's probably going to be one of the top 2 B block finalists, but it's kind of been sneaky until like they put him in a main event spot where he goes out and he shows off the goods. I don't have anything negative to say about his tournament. The one thing I will say though is, he's done a lot of brawling tactics. He's one of the few guys that almost consistently every night is taking people out into the stands and really utilizing the crowd and the chairs and kind of just being like that brawling brute sort of character in this tournament.
Yeah, kind of, reliving some of his old Suzuki-gun kind of days, kind of that more version of himself, and kind of laying in more to the more kind of hardcore, aggressive side of himself here in the tournament so far. But yeah, like he's been good. I think that probably part of the reason, and maybe I don't know if this is leads to his performance, but like he hasn't really been quote unquote one of the main characters of this tournament.
Yeah, the story in B Block's not revolving around him.
Where I feel like, in the past, especially some of these pandemic Super Juniors, like he's been one of the focal points, which I think has probably elevated his booking and positioning and him trying really hard. Here, he's not, even though he's on top of the block, has 12 points and is potentially going to go into the semifinals. Like this B Block has not really been about him. And so he's kind of had some of these mid-card matches that have been good. And then once he gets in the main event, it's like, all right, yeah, it's Despy. He's the man.
Kind of that's sort of what Hiromu's tournament's been like in a way as well. Although Hiromu's, because he's the champion, there is more focus on him. But it's pretty clear A Block tournament's not about Hiromu. And those first two big losses to Leo Russian and Speedball sort of set that stage and that precedent. That's kind of the same story over here. It's like Despy's the Hiromu of this block. He's the most important figure, but he's not the central figure of the narrative going on. And that's why I'm saying it's kind of sleepy and sneaky. He's going to make it to the finals, most likely, I'm assuming. But it's most of the narrative that's going on and the storytelling's not based around him.
Right. Yeah. I feel like, Wato has kind of like been the highlight, and a lot of attention's been on Wato's kind of journey in this block. And Despy's has kind of sneakily found his way right up there with Wato.
Right.
So next up, our buddy Robbie Eagles. He's 5-3. He's got 10 points, so he does have the potential to end with 12 points, and still has some hope to get in the semifinals. Needs some tiebreaker scenarios to work out in his favor there.
Yeah, I think he's alive, but he needs help.
Yeah. So on night 5, he defeated Yoshinobu Kanemaru. Night 6, he lost to Master Wato. Night 7, he defeated Kevin Knight. And then on night 8, in a really fun matchup, he lost to the Drilla Dan Maloney.
Yeah, I mean, losing to Wato is one of the most meaningful losses for him in terms of progression, because obviously Wato's sitting at 12 now, and they were 8-8 at the time. So that was a pretty big, adjustment loss. Like if he'd won that match, he'd be in a totally different spot right now entirely, because he'd have the tiebreaker. They'd probably be at the same point total, but it just didn't work out that way. But that loss to Dan Maloney was pretty unexpected, and that match was great, by the way. That was I still maintain the fact that Robbie Eagles, for better or for worse, he might not have peaked as high as some of the matches that, say, like Desperado had, but he's the most consistently great performer of B Block. Like, to me, he's still the MVP. And I feel like that Dan Maloney match really showcases, and this is speaking nothing ill of Dan Maloney. He's a guy who I feel like, based on everything we know about him leading in this tournament, we have not seen the best of Dan Maloney in this tournament. Like, it's been an adjustment period. Mm-hmm. And the match with Robbie was where we sort of got a taste of the Dan Maloney that international audiences and, British wrestling fans have seen for years and years. And that match was just fucking awesome. And that finish where he was going up for the, what is he called? The turbo backpack?
He's going for turbo backpack, and then he caught him reversing to the Drilla Killer.
It came out of nowhere. That was like a story where like he was killing Maloney and taking his legs, but he didn't count on the power, and wrong place, wrong time.
And the best too was the crowd, because the crowd. There was one guy that was really heckling Maloney and starting the Robbie oi 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 chants, and Dan was like giving it back to him the whole match, and then he hits a Drilla Killer, and just flicks him off at the end and was like, I beat your boy. Like, God, he was just like so fired up. It was awesome.
Yeah, it is. I do think that there's still hope for Robbie to make it into the finals, potentially.
Yeah. I mean, so on the final night, the final B block night, which will be Wednesday, he's facing Desperado.
Okay, so there's that. That's a big match. Wow.
Yeah. So if he
that's
beats,
Wednesday night.
Yeah, it's Wednesday. So if he beats Desperado, he would tie at 12, and then he would have a tiebreaker over Despy.
But what about the Yo Wato situation?
So yeah, so he would need both those guys to lose. So Wato has Kevin Knight, and Yo has Kanemaru, and Eagles has lost to Wato, so he needs Wato to lose, but Wato still has a tiebreaker, and he would also need Yo to lose.
This is getting messy and murky. He might be out.
Yeah.
Well, what I was gonna say is, part of my thinking was that there's a chance because he's like the only foreigner, kind of live at the top, that he might sneak in. But it looks like that's probably not the case. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it looks like we're gonna get 2 domestic stars from B Block going into the finals there.
Yeah, it seems like that's gonna be the play. Yeah, unless somehow, Robbie wins and there's some kind of crazy tiebreaker scenario where he gets through. But it definitely seems like Despy, Yo, and Wato, 2 of the 3 of those guys are going through.
I don't know if I could say that this is Robbie's best tournament. It feels like every year he just is a standout year after year in Super Juniors, but he's had a phenomenal tournament.
Yeah, he hasn't had the ELP match like he did last year yet, which could be the Despy match on Wednesday.
If I was a gambling man, if I was putting money on it, that's the one I would be like, all right, watch out for this one, because yeah, that's a big one. But man, him beating Despy leading into the finals, that would be so fucking
That'd be
crazy.
wild.
That'd be so, I mean, not that he can't, he's beaten Desperado, but like the implications, like Dennis Reynolds said, the implications.
So next up here, Francisco Akira, who's currently 4-4 for 8 points. Night 5, he lost to Clark Connors. Night 6, he lost to Yo. Night 7, defeated Kanemaru, and then night 8, losing to El Desperado in that Cork and Hall main event that we were talking about earlier.
Again, we're at that TJP litmus point where essentially from Francesco Akira down, the rest of these guys are eliminated. They're all fighting for pride. He needed that win over Despy. He really needed that win.
I thought he was gonna get it. He kept getting out of numero dos, and the ref wouldn't stop it. He wasn't tapping out. He had that big fiery comeback after TJP threw a towel in, but Despy caught it. He threw a towel out the ring. I was like, oh man, like Akira could win this.
But look at his week. He lost to Clark, he lost to Yo, and he lost to Despy. So it's like he took 3 huge losses in the span of just a few days. So that unfortunately was his undoing. He had a really strong start to the tournament, but in terms of performance, I think he's much better than he was last year, and he was really great last year. But the melding together of his character along with his talent from an in-ring perspective, I think he's great. And I like Francesco Akira a lot. I think he's really, really good, and I felt like this tournament was a great step in the right direction. One thing, though, I will say is this B block does not feel as fully fleshed out from a booking perspective in the way A block is. Like there seems to be, and there's nothing wrong with that. You got 20 guys. It's not possible that every single one of them can have a compelling narrative, surrounding them. But Francesco Akira right now he's at 4-4. I think he's improved probably in terms of like year-over-year tournaments, but this is just where he's at, and I feel like the next step is probably the return of Catch 2-2, which there's nothing wrong with that because they're probably one of the 2 best tag teams in the world right now, top 3.
Yeah, they're incredible, and there's definitely more stuff to do with those guys as a team. But yeah, Akira, really enjoyed his tournament, and I'm glad he's in New Japan. He's been a great addition to singles and tag divisions, and I think the Desperado match was a breakout moment for him.
That's the best match he's had in New Japan, period. And it can't be understated. If you haven't seen that match, you have to go out of your way and catch it. And that was one that, like, I know we're talking about how sleepy Despy's tournament has been, but he turned it up in that match where I was like, oh, he's a fucking juggernaut.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he might be coming on strong for the rest of the tournament after the way he decimated Francesco Akira. And like, he hasn't been decimating people, but he destroyed this kid, and it was really cool.
Yeah, dude, that was such a great story.
It was like a little bit. I don't want to compare it to this match because it almost feels like it's not fair, but this felt like how long was it? A 25-minute Best of the Super Juniors mini version of Omega Ospreay from earlier this year. Like, he kind of killed Francesco Akira, and you don't really see a lot of matches in Super Juniors where someone just gets decimated, but like Akira, he didn't come off as this fiery underdog. Like, he didn't come off as like Sean Waltman versus Bret Hart, right?
Mm-hmm.
He came off as like Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart, like someone who's a badass who like just keeps persevering through everything.
Yeah, I mean, he's still cursing out Despy in Italian the whole match, and he's like,
yeah, he's still showing all that fire and that spit and like just like cussing the dude out, but he got decimated. It was awesome.
Yeah, he's like, show me something, Despy, show me something. Despy's
yeah,
like,
show me something. He's like,
okay,
hold this thing, show me more. It's so good.
Hold this right hand. Oh man. Next up,
there's probably a match of the month. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens this week up with the finals and stuff. Also, there's stuff on Resurgence too that could maybe compete also.
Oh yeah, Cavernario, Virus.
So next up, 100 proof Clark Connors. He's also 8 points. Night 5, he defeated Akira. Night 6, losing to Desperado. Night 7, losing to Wato. And then night 8, defeating Kanemaru.
I feel like I don't want to repeat all the same talking points I had last week about Clark Connors. Nothing new has really emerged over the past week. It's kind of what I said last week, where it's like, he's really focused in. He's got this heel character. He's starting to get it over. He's got Gato with him. There is an importance there, but the story of his matches is he gonna hit the
no chaser
or not? If he doesn't hit the no chaser, he loses. If he hits it, it's over.
Yeah, and they've been kind of also pushing him as a power junior, and Gato's been calling the plays and wanting him to be more aggressive. He wants him to spare guys, 3 times and then hit the no chaser, which has kind of backfired for him. He's gotten too aggressive, and that's actually allowed the other guys to kind of catch him off guard because he's kind of so bullheaded. He's kind of that bull that's seeing red, but then the cape gets pulled away from him, and that kind of causes him to slip.
Well, there might be an MMA aspect to this, prior to the pandemic, right? Guys would be in the fight together, and with the audience and the crowd and everyone buzzing, someone from the corner would call something out to a guy, and you didn't know what they were saying, so you couldn't react to it. But then the pandemic came, and they started having those empty arena fights, and like you could hear the other guy's coach saying exactly what he was going to do, and then you'd see him doing it, and you'd see guys react in real time, and they'd be like 1-2, and they'd slip the 1-2, and then die, and then go for a double leg, and you're like, oh my god, they're hearing the other side's corner. I remember a match where like DC was on commentary. He's like, what he needs to do right now is do blah, blah, blah. And then the guy did it because they could hear the commentators.
Yeah.
And there might be an aspect to that where it's like these competitors are hearing Gato saying like, spear him. Like, oh, a spear's coming.
No chaser.
Like, oh, okay, he's going for the no chaser. Like, there's a John Donovan. He's like a MMA coach. I think it's John Donovan. I could be wrong, but some of these guys come up with weird nicknames and they have like a code. So they'd be like Lucy Foot 1 2 3 and like, you know, or whatever. They'd have like a number code, and the other person, they do it so that the other team can't know what they're calling for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if I was a smart manager in wrestling, I would do something like that. Like come up with my own you know, I could just imagine like Bobby Heenan coming up with fake shit to tell the guys to do.
Blue Oklahoma, Blue Oklahoma.
Yeah, Blue Oklahoma. Yeah, it's like in football, like when they like have codes, you know?
Yeah.
But Gato's out here, he's like, hit him with the no chaser now.
Spare.
Thanks, Gato.
Spare again.
Is it any wonder that your guy's not winning? You're saying his game plan out, you're screaming it.
Oh man, but yeah, Clark, I think he's been good, but like, yeah, it's just been a lot about getting over this whole new persona over, and pretty much they've been booking him very strong. Like, all of his losses have kind of been banana peel losses, and then at post match he'll get his heat back, attack the guy, lay the guy out, hit him with a chair, and so they're definitely protecting him even though he's losing. But overall, I think booking wise, definitely probably his best booking in New Japan since he's been in the company.
Yeah, Clark Connors prior to the turn, like he was always impressive, but he came off as like happy to be here guy that's just trying his best, like a quasi young lion. Mm-hmm. This guy that's here, he's a fucking man, bro. Like I don't want to fight this guy.
Yeah, that like the cork, and now he got up in like that one kid's face, and it was just like,
I was nervous about that. I was like, you know, because they kind of toe the line in New Japan. I'm like, it's just a little kid, leave him alone.
And even at the end, the kid tried to sweet him, and he's like, I don't want you too sweet. Oh man. So next up, the Jet, Kevin Knight, one half of the IWGP Junior Tag Team Champions. Kevin Knight defeated Bushi on night 5, defeated Dan Maloney on night 6, night 7 losing to Robbie Eagles, night 8 losing to Yo.
Taking nothing away from Kevin Knight's in-ring performance, the highlight for me in this tournament for Kevin Knight was when he was on commentary. I thought he was awesome on commentary.
Yeah, he was great. You know how we talked about people last week who weren't really like in character, kind of like pushing stuff, like
he was in fucking character the whole time.
Yeah, when Clark was out, you know, brawling on the outside, he was like, "Oh, you want some of it? Like, what's your problem? Like, back up!" Like, he was like getting into character, like remembering what Clark did to him at the beginning of the tournament, and yeah, through the whole thing, like he was just in character, had great commentary, great lines.
I saw some people saying they didn't like him on commentary as much as some of the other guys, but the only thing I got to say about that is racist. Okay. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, because I thought he fucking ruled, bro.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, he was good. You know, Kevin Knight, it is really surprising that he has more points in this tournament than his tag team partner, Kushida. I am wondering if there's a day of reckoning coming for those two guys, you know, because he's the underling, like he's his apprentice. He's his, like, you know, the greenhorn, the guy that he's showing the ropes to, and he's ahead of him in this tournament, which is really surprising. But I've really liked Kevin Knight in this tournament. He's gotten some wins that I didn't necessarily expect him to get. And sure, he's not a finished product even right now, even though he's got the gimmick change and everything. He's not a finished product. There's still some greenness there, but I think he's really great. I think he's learned a lot in this tournament. And let me put it to you this way. I'm more impressed with Kevin Knight this year than I was with like Yuta Wheeler last year in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Knight's been pretty spectacular with some of the high flying he's doing, the no hands jumping super Frankensteiner, a lot of his
that is so sick.
Yeah, his drop kicks is incredible. Like, this guy is super athletic, and obviously, yes, he's still green. Some of his matches there is some like a little bit of sloppiness because he's still kind of getting his footing, still kind of learning how to utilize the high flying, utilize his athleticism. But overall, like I was telling Rich, like Kevin Knight has the essence of what Super Juniors should be. Young guys going out there, flipping, taking risks, super charismatic, super energetic. Like, you watch him and you hear the way the crowd reacts to him. Like, when he does these leapfrogs, when he jumps up to the top rope, like, the crowd is into him. And we've seen guys in the past with super athleticism, your Ricochets, your young Will Ospreys, guys who come in and can do some really incredible stuff. And Kevin Knight's kind of on that path. If he can continue to kind of develop and tighten up the high flying game, and he trained under Shibata, we know he can wrestle as well. There's so much upside to him.
Totally agree.
Next up, the Drilla Dan Maloney, also 6 points. He lost to Watto on night 5, lost to Kevin Knight on night 6. Night 7, losing to Desperado, and then night 8, he was able to pick up a win over Robbie Eagles.
I can't sit here and tell you that I'm the foremost expert when it comes to Dan Maloney, but for years and years, a lot of people whose opinions I respect, who are very much plugged into the UK Brit Res scene, have always praised Dan Maloney and his performances. And I've seen some of his work and I've always liked him. And I do think he's gotten better this week than he was in the early iteration of the tournament. Like, I feel like he's made a few adjustments. I'm wondering if he listens to this podcast. He's doing less, or if someone listening was like, do less hand signals. But I don't know if they've given him the opportunity or the time to go out there and like have a main event. Well, obviously he hasn't had a main event. All of his matches have been like sub 10 minutes. So he hasn't gotten the opportunity to go out there and like have a big time match in the Super Juniors. Like I mentioned last week, his time slots remind me a lot of like when Gresham was in this tournament. A guy that's kind of getting middle card, mid-tier time frames. But he's really started to come more into his own this past week. And especially the last 2 nights, the night with Despy and the night with Robbie Eagles. Now, I know you could point to those nights and be like, well, he was in there with Eagles and Desperado, 2 of the top guys in the division, so it makes sense that he would do well. But at the same time, this is someone whose reputation severely precedes them. And I think I saw a little taste of what people have been saying for years about Dan Maloney. And I'm just going to, and you know what? I said this, when did Doki first come into New Japan? Was that 2018?
That was 2019. He replaced, I think, injured Flip Gordon.
This is a little bit easier to like say than Doki was, but like, if they keep Dan Maloney around, he will be a top guy in this division. I know that sounds like, to some people, preposterous, but like, he is very impressive. He hasn't necessarily put it all together. There's a lot of things, I think, working against him. It's like all new opponents, working in Japan for the first time, the language barrier, the short amount of time they've given him to go out there, the fact that the crowds don't know him, the time exchange, and then also even just the schedule itself is so arduous. There's a lot going against this guy. And I think even though, I don't think he's gone out there and like gotten over the way like say Alexander did last week or last year or whatever. That's his name, right? Alexander?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like he's gone out there and like become a darling to the crowds, but I see something there and I think it's substantial. And I think he's got real, and like my opinion doesn't matter, but like, I think he's a star. I think he's going to be a big, big fucking star. And if not here, somewhere else, New Japan needs to, I'm not saying like scoop him up because obviously he's a Brit Res guy, but we've seen them integrate Zack Sabre Jr. and Will Ospreay and stuff like that over the years. If he sticks around and he's working in this company, he will be an IWGP Junior Champion and he will be a top-end star for the junior division. And I think he's got the frame and size to, he'd be like a quote-unquote undersized heavyweight, but like there's the potential to put that weight back on and go up to heavyweight down the road.
Yeah, I think with him, it's, we see guys sometimes when they come in to Japan for the first time, like they're still trying to figure things out. And I think that's kind of where he's been. Because, I mean, I've seen some of his stuff in Rev Pro, and he's been awesome. But, you know, Rev Pro is a different beast than in New Japan. Your first time in Japan, your first tour, different ropes, different rings, different opponents, like you're mentioning. And so I think he's just still trying to figure it out. Plus, you mentioned sub 10-minute matches. Like, there's a lot working against him. But I think he's been fighting against adversity and coming out and looking really good. He understands his character. I think he's a great addition to United Empire. And yeah, the Robbie Eagles match was, I think, like his kind of coming out party for him and showing fans like, all right, this is a reason why like Ospreay picked him to be in the group. This is the reason why New Japan allowed him to be in this tournament, was because of the stuff like that. And then just the whole, his interactions with the fans, and then leading to the whole finish we talked about, you know, into the Driller Killer. Like, it was dope.
I think there's probably a lot of like pro elitist type of fans who are watching this tournament and they're like, I haven't seen anything from him, not that impressed. And they're probably like, you would take Dan Maloney over Yo? Yes. Look at him and look at Yo. There's so much more upside. This guy's a star. I see it. I see so much potential in him. Like, I'm really impressed with Dan Maloney. I know that he hasn't gone out there and like quote unquote made a name for himself in New Japan. Like, you know, he hasn't gone out there and like torn the hinges off the doors like the way that like Ricochet or like, you know, Will Ospreay did when they first broke into the you know, company. But I'm telling you, there's something there.
Yeah, there definitely is. And good thing for him, you know, he's part of United Empire, so that's an easy avenue to bring him back for more tours.
That's the other thing too, is you know, as much as I like TJP and I like Francesco Akira, and I do think that they both have the potential to be champions in this division, I don't see either of them right now, and this could change, but right now I don't see either of them as being the like junior ace of that faction. And I feel like Dan Maloney's been brought over to like kind of fulfill that spot.
Yeah, could be.
Well, I mean, think about it, because usually when there's three of them, if one of them is going to be utilized to be the new like ace of the group, then the other two de facto turn into a tag team. Do you see a situation where Dan Maloney gets cycled into team with TJP or Francesco Akira? Like, I don't see that. I think he's the crown jewel.
Yeah, they're really established the Catch 2-2 tag team, and those guys are great together. So
exactly,
you have those guys. Yeah, be junior tag champs, and he's junior champ.
Yeah. So for the time being, I think he's like the even though like he's the least experienced and established of the three guys. And this is nothing against the other two. I just think from a kayfabe perspective, they're setting him up to be the main person for the juniors in that group.
Yeah. So last two guys here. First, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, 2-6 with 4 points. Night 5, he lost to Robbie Eagles. Night 6, he lost to Bushi. Night 7, he lost to Francesco Akira. And night 8, losing to Clark Connors. So, you know, Kanemaru started out hot, but he just dropped 4 in a row here.
Man's not hot.
Man can never be hot.
Man can never be hot.
Perspiration thing.
I forgot about that shit. Oh man. Yeah, so Kanemaru has been awesome. Just we sang his praises last week. They have continued. Even though he's not a factor in this tournament, he's still someone that played spoiler a lot. There was one thing I saw in this match or in this tournament that I did not like that happened on night 8. So he puts Clark Connors in the figure 4 leg lock, and they've really established his figure 4 as being something that can win a match, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So Clark Connors gets to the ring ropes, and then they're still in the figure 4, and they roll out of the ring, and they never broke the figure 4 leg lock. And then they're on the outside, and the referees started counting the 1, 2, 3, and then they start counting them out, but they never broke the figure 4 leg lock. There's very few things that infuriate me more in pro wrestling than when someone makes it to the ropes and the referee doesn't force them to break the hold.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar used to do this shit all the time. Like where Kurt Angle would put Brock Lesnar in the ankle lock, Brock would get to the ropes, and then Kurt would drag him back without breaking the ankle lock at all, without letting go, and then reapply it in the middle of the ring. And I'm like, he made the fucking ropes. What are we doing here right now? Go back and watch those O2 matches. Like, it's really frustrating. And that's what they did here. Like, he got to the ropes. They're in the ropes. They roll to the outside. And instead of going outside and forcing them to stop, because think about it. This is a move that they established as a finisher in this tournament. And then he's got 20 seconds to apply it on the outside. Like, he could have broken Clark Connor's legs in kayfabe. And the referee's just like, oh, well, they're on the outside. 1, 2. It's like, no, bro, they made the ropes. And even Kevin Kelly was calling for this, but,
Yeah.
Maybe I sound like JR, but I just fucking hate that shit.
Yeah, I think it would have been fine if Kanemaru would have applied, like they were brawled outside and he applied it on the outside.
They could have broken it and then gone outside and he reapplied it. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did not like that. But other than that, Kanemaru's just been awesome in this tournament, and it's been the renaissance of Kanemaru. We knew he wasn't going to be a factor. He just got the last title shot, but he's been great.
Yeah, been a ton of fun to watch, and just like every Super Juniors, he's always a fun to watch. He's had some short matches this past week, but definitely been a solid part of this B block. And then the last guy, Bushi, 1-7, 2 points. Night 5, losing to Kevin Knight. Night 6, he beat Kanemaru. Night 7, he lost to Yo. Night 8, he lost to Master Wato. We had a question here from Rod Easter. Says, if there's such a thing as the winner's purse or pay window, how's my man Bushi able to afford that fly-ass gear and mask?
Shout out to Rod Easter. Give some love on the Squared Circle Facebook wrestling fan page or group, whatever you call that. He added us to the New Japan Pro Wrestling fan group that he is an admin of on Facebook, and kind of gave some shout outs this past week to some of the I don't know what you call it, the group members.
Yeah,
so that's cool. Bushi, I don't have much to say here. I did think it was funny though that Bushi got beat by Yo by taking an MX and then getting hit with the, what is he called? The direct drive?
Yeah.
Like he literally stole his fucking move and then hit him with the direct. That's like one of those kayfabe things. Nobody ever gets beat by their own move in pro wrestling. Like if you hit someone with their move, if you steal their finisher, they're going to kick out of it. So Yo was like, I'm going to hit you with your finisher. And then I'm going to hit you with my finisher. And you're not kicking out of it.
Yeah.
That told me, like, even though Yo might not be the hoe, it might be Bushi's the hoe. But, I don't know how Bushi can afford all this fucking gear because it makes no sense.
Every night
he's got new gear.
Two new masks, new gear.
I don't know if you guys understand. Like, I know that I'm not like a pro. I'm like an amateur pro wrestler, right? like I wouldn't call it a backyarder, but like a fake pro wrestler, right? I've looked into gear. Do you know how expensive fucking gear is?
Bro, I remember when I was back.
You're so expensive.
I was backyard again. Like we were like starting to like take it more seriously. I'm like, yeah, I want to get some gear made. Like I want like an official like John Jura singlet. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's expensive, dude. And now he's got multiple masks every night. Plus, oftentimes he has elaborate entrance gear. It makes no sense.
Right, those light up eyes, light up tongue, the sparkle like leather gear.
Bushi I know that he asked us about like the kayfabe of like winners' purses and pay windows, but like let's break it down into the real world. How does this man fucking afford it? Like, is he spending all of his money on gear? Is he just pulling a 1985 Ric Flair? Like he's living the gimmick and he's just spending all of his money on his lifestyle, which is just buying new masks? I don't know. Maybe he comes from money,
Maybe he's got the hookup though. Maybe there's like he's got the plug.
No. Listen, man, I've got the hookup down in Mexico. If you want a mask, I'm not going to give you my hookup, but I can get you some real authentic fly ass gear down in Mexico for like dirt cheap, for like nothing. But if I was getting as much gear as Bushi does down there, oh my God, it would be like we're talking six figures, bro. Like it makes no sense. This guy's got to come from money because he's not making this much money. Like if he wasn't a wrestler, if he was a business and he was producing this much stuff and taking this little much money in, I'd call him a money laundering scheme. It makes no sense. Oh man.
Well, a few questions here, and then we'll break down the finals here. Def Triangle 720. How do you feel about the booking of Clark Connors and Dan Maloney?
I feel like we've sort of answered that, to be honest with you. I feel like I can move on. Yeah. I do appreciate the question, though.
Heavenly Halberd, who has been the most disappointing wrestler in the tournament so far based on their positioning and your expectations for them going in?
Kushida.
Yeah, easily Kushida. I mean, I thought he was going to be one of the finals and did not come close.
The other one would be Yo.
Yeah, especially with the push he's gotten in all these pandemic Super Juniors.
The push does not match the output, my guy.
Yeah.
Especially when you start to really look at it analytically and you're looking at, like, I know he's putting out good, but it's mainly mid. And you can't be mid with 12 points when Doki exists.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, it's not right. This is fucked up.
Question from the Dark Soldier. Who busted your bracket this year? For me, it was Mike Bailey for being a winner, Kushida for being a loser, and Clark Connors for not being enough of a winner. Seriously, I gave the dude 14 points in the whole tournament win. I thought he'd be an unstoppable hoss throughout with him being Finley's guy.
I didn't make a bracket this year, so it's more just like gut instinct. But yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I'm a little surprised that Clark Connors is lower than sort of expected, but you know, we said during the preview, this is an extremely difficult tournament to predict this year. So
yeah, I mean, Kushida definitely, I didn't fill out a full bracket, but I had Kushida Despy kind of circled as my overall finals for the tournament. And yeah, Kushida, if I would have filled that whole bracket, yeah, Kushida would have been the main guy who would have busted my bracket.
Well, Jeremy, this coming week, we've got on May 23rd, we have A block finals. That's night 9. Night 10, we have the B block finals. And then on Sunday, May 26th, night 11, we have I'm sorry. I messed up. On May 26th, which is Friday, we have the semifinals. And then on Sunday, May 28th, we have the absolute best of Super Junior finals. I'm a little surprised because in the past, they used to do the semifinals and the finals on the same day, all in one night. They're not doing that here. But just to kind of go through what we have coming up. So night 9, which is Tuesday, which is by the time most of you are hearing this will have already occurred. We've got Oscar Luebe and Yuto Nakashima taking on the United Empire's Great Okan and TJP. Second match of the night, El Desperado and Ryohei Oiwa take on the Team DK team of Kosei Fujita and Robbie Eagles. Third match of the night, we have the Bull Club team of Clark Connors and Ghetto taking on the United Empire team of Dan Maloney and Francesco Akira. Kevin Knight, Master Wato, and Yo take on Just Five Guys, Taichi, Taka, and Kanemaru. And then getting to A block action, we have Taguchi taking on Kushida. If Taguchi loses, he will go winless in the tournament. Both guys sitting at the bottom of the block, so kind of a really necessary win for both gentlemen. Sixth match of the night, we have Doki versus Sho. The semi-main event is Mike Bailey versus Leo Rush, both guys sitting at 12 points. And then your main event of the evening is Teton versus Hiromu, LIJ versus LIJ. And that is our A block night. So I guess we should talk about that a little bit in our preview and what we think is going to happen here.
Yeah, so I'll see the last 3 matches are going to be the key matches on this night and determine who's going to move forward in the A1 and A2 slot.
Why did you say the last 3? Because I feel like only the last 2 matches really matter.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking 3 guys. Last 2 matches, but I was thinking about 3 guys. But yeah, the last 2 matches are the main ones that are going to determine who's going into the semifinals, getting that A1, A2 slot. So Leo Rush and Speedball Mike Bailey, they're both at 12. So whoever wins is going in for sure.
Right. Because they'll have 14 points, and even if somebody ties them, it's a done deal one way or the other. Have we considered there have not been any 1-point scenarios.
A draw.
Could this be a situation where we wind up with a 1-point scenario, some sort of draw, count out, something like that?
You could, but then I think that complicates things on who's going to be the A2.
I think they would both just get in.
I guess, yeah.
Would they be dummies if they didn't just pre-agree to go in and both just do a double count out because they both get into the finals at that point?
Well, no, if Hiromu wins, Hiromu would get to 14, right?
Oh yeah, you're right.
So one of them would be out.
Oh yeah. Disregard what I'm saying. I'm not good at math. Yeah, so one of them definitely needs to win. So it is a do or die situation, but I am kind of confused because okay, I'm thinking of everything here. So if Hiromu loses, and it doesn't matter who wins between these two because they both basically probably get in.
Right. So if Speedball wins and Teton wins, so Bailey would get in at 14. Then you have Teton, Rush, and Hiromu all at 12. So you would kind of have to play out this tiebreaker scenarios there.
Where are you getting your information from? Not that I doubt it. Obviously, I don't have anything in front of me, so it seems like you've kind of gone through the scenarios.
Right now, I'm looking at a column from Jay Michael on Voices of Wrestling. He did a column today breaking down the A block scenarios.
Gotcha.
So
I'm glad somebody's done the work. Because, because if it was just me, I'd be like, yeah, something's going to happen. 2 guys are getting through. We'll find out.
So what he has here, so if Speedball wins, he wins the block with 14 points. Leo Rush is eliminated at 12 because any result in Hiromu versus Teton would stop him because he's lost to both those guys. Hiromu would remain a chance of advancing at 13, at a draw or winning at 14, but he can't win the block, so Hiromu would be A2 if Bailey wins. And Teton would have a chance to advance with 12 because he would hold a tiebreaker over both Hiromu and Leo. If Leo wins the block of 14. Mike Bailey retains his chance to advance at 12 because he has a tiebreaker on both Hiromu and Teton, which means if Teton is eliminated, his best results would be 12 points tied with Mike Bailey, who holds a tiebreaker. So you could have the main event be eliminated if Leo Rush wins, which I don't think they would do.
This is getting so crazy. I don't even know. Okay, so let's just talk about Hiromu for a second, because obviously the winner of this tournament faces Hiromu for the title. That's tradition. Mm-hmm. If Hiromu wins, he's going through to the finals, period, pretty much, right?
Well, if Hiromu wins, he's going to the semifinals.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I keep saying I'm so used to saying finals. I mean, he's going to make it to the semifinals, and then he's going to face somebody from B block.
Right.
And he'll either win and go to the finals and face somebody that he already fought in A block, or he'll face a new competitor in B block. I'm assuming he's not winning this tournament for a 3rd year in a row.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the semifinals is a good way to get him to, quote unquote, advance without having him win. and having him in play to win.
But my concern this whole time, and I mentioned this during our preview episode, is that if he comes through and then he loses, he's got another person to potentially defend against, and that person might very well win the tournament. And let's say if he goes to a finals against someone from A block, it could be someone that he already fought in the tournament. Then we could be seeing like a trilogy in a very short period of time, which is like something Gato likes to do. And that's something I hate. I hate when they have these cool, open, tournament formats that result in 3 back-to-back-to-back matches in a very short period of time. It's something I'm not a big fan of. But I don't see a scenario where Hiromu doesn't make it to the semifinals right now.
Yeah, I don't see Teton beating him. So, yeah, I'm seeing Hiromu win, which would get him to 14.
And then at that point, it looks like we're going to wind up with at least 2 domestic stars on the other side. So I'm guessing either Mike Bailey or Leo Rush, obviously one of those two, is going to be in the block final or the semifinals along with Hiromu. And I am wondering if, I don't know, it's a pick 'em at this point. I don't know if it's Mike Bailey or Leo Rush. It feels like it could be either guy, really.
Yeah, it could be either guy. I don't know. I feel like Leo, he's more of a New Japan guy than Mike Bailey, because Bailey's from Impact. But
that's normally with how impressive Mike Bailey's been, I would be like, yeah, just put Mike Bailey in. But Leo Rush kind of is more a New Japan guy, and they might go with their people.
Right. And if Leo wins, that does kind of put the main event. It kind of makes it a little bit more spicy because Leo has a tiebreak over both those guys.
What's the situation that Teton needs to happen for him to go through?
So Teton needs Leo Rush to win.
Then that's what's going to happen. And
then he needs to beat Hiromu.
Right. They're not going to do a situation where Teton's at 10 points and he's we fixed it. This is it right here. Mike Bailey's not winning. They're not doing a situation where Teton is out and he's just playing spoiler and he's just fighting for pride in the main event of the A block to find out the semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Bailey's losing to Leo Rush on Tuesday, period.
Yeah, so you're probably looking at a Leo Rush.
It's Leo Rush and Hiromu.
Leo Rush is your A1, Hiromu as your A2.
Okay, so we figured that out, thank God. So then the next night, just kind of going through the card real quick, and this is going to be Wednesday, May 24th. We don't have the full card, but we do have the Super Juniors matches. And the full order is to be determined. So that we don't actually have the full order here, but we got Bushi versus Francesco Akira. As we mentioned, both guys are eliminated and fighting for pride. We have El Desperado versus Robbie Eagles, which I'm assuming very likely is a main event or close to main event. After that, we have Wato versus Kevin Knight. Wato is very much in play for the semifinals. Kevin Knight has been eliminated. We have Kanemaru versus Yo. Same situation. And then finally, we have Dan Maloney versus Clark Connors. So the 3 matches that have implications for the semifinals are going to be Desperado versus Eagles. Both guys are technically still alive. Wato versus Kevin Knight, with Wato being the only one eligible. And then Kanemaru versus Yo, with only Yo being eligible.
Yeah, so here, if Desperado wins, that puts Despy to 14, and he would get through. Then with Wato and Yo, I feel like one of those two guys are going to lose.
It's going to be Yo.
Yeah, Kanemaru upset alert, so that would leave Yo at 12, and then if Wato wins, that would put him to 14. So Desperado would be your B1 and Wato would be your B2.
What situation does Eagles need to stay alive in the main event?
So if Eagle would need Wato and Yo to lose.
Hmm.
I think. What did Robbie beat Yo?
Like, I remember what happened in this tournament. There's been so many matches.
I'm trying to remember because if
Do you want me to look on Cage Match?
if Yo, there might be a scenario where if he's beat Yo and Yo wins.
Do you not? Did they not do the full scenario on that as well?
No, the column for that one's not out yet.
Oh, okay.
He only did A block.
I was asking you for the information because I thought like Robbie Eagles defeated Yo on night 1.
Right. So if Yo wins, Yo would get to 14.
Well, Robbie has 10.
Right. So Robbie has to beat Desperado.
Right.
And
to get to 12, and then he needs the other 2 guys to both lose so that they're all tied at 12 so he can win a tiebreaker to get through.
Right. Or
So
he needs, or if it's in a B2, like Yo could win. No, actually, or Watto could. Hold on, one of them can win. I think he can still get in.
So if Watto won and got to 14, and Yo lost and was at 12,
yeah, then Robbie could get through because he has a
he
tiebreaker.
could still win and get through and be tied. And he'd have the tiebreaker over the other 2 guys he was tied with.
Right, yeah.
I already kind of thought Watto was going to be the winner and Yo was going to be the loser, mainly just because like they seem to be putting the rocket behind Watto in this tournament right now.
Mm-hmm.
But with that booking scenario, that just makes the most sense. I think the main event is going to be Desperado versus Robbie Eagles. Earlier in the evening, Watto will win. He will be pretty much probably 1A. What happened between him and Despy when they wrestled? I can't remember.
I think Desperado beat him.
Okay. So if Desperado beats him, Desperado will be B1.
Right.
But either way, Watto's going to win. Yo's going to lose. And then we're going to run into a main event situation where it's going to be Robbie Eagles versus Desperado. If Robbie wins, he makes it to the semifinals. And if Desperado wins, he is 1B or B1. And I think that's your situation. I think Desperado wins. We end up with Desperado B1, and we end up with Watto B2.
So then that would take us to the semifinals.
Well, do you agree? Is that what you see happening too?
Yeah. I think Despy and Watto are moving forward. So that would take us to the semifinals in Yoyogi on Friday. So for us, how we booked it out, A1 would be Leo Rush facing the B2 of Master Watto. And then the B1 Desperado would face the A2 of Hiromu.
That makes sense to me.
And
I think Watto's winning this tournament.
So you think they would run back Watto Despy as the main, or maybe Watto Hiromu as the finals?
It wouldn't matter. Well, yeah, I think it's going to be Watto versus Desperado in the finals. And it could go either way. Although, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we get that. It could be Desperado versus Leo Rush.
That's kind of what I'm seeing. At least that's what I would want.
I'm very against the champion making the semifinals, though, because any match becomes like there's so much possibility for rematches and even trilogy matches in such a short period of time that it kind of throws water on the upcoming big match that is, the result of this whole tournament. I would just love if Teton got through and not Hiromu. Not because I don't like Hiromu. I just hate watching the same match over and over and over again.
Right,
within weeks of each other.
Because he would face Despy in the semis. If Despy wins, then you're running back Despy Hiromu.
Right. I don't want to see that again. And how many tournaments? Remember when they were doing the single block tournament? We were running into the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big fan of that personally. And this is a little different because these are semifinals. These are supposed to be, important matches. So I'm actually going to be pulling for Teton against Hiromu that night. But yeah, I think we've booked it right, and I think it's if Desperado is winning the tournament, I think we're going to see him and Leo Rush in the finals.
Yeah.
If Wato makes the finals, regardless of who he's wrestling, I think he's winning the tournament. I could see a scenario where he wrestles Hiromu, beats him, and then loses to him in the title match.
They could definitely do that. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of
the scenario that is best. The scenario that's most attractive to me is Desperado versus Leo Rush in the finals. Desperado wins, and then we get the big Desperado versus Hiromu match at Dominion.
Yeah, I think that'd be the best bet to go.
Well, we did it. We hacked the whole shit. We got it.
So yeah,
I know that it's hard for us to always get everything right, especially when things are so open at the beginning. But now looking at like the last couple night scenarios, I think we're pretty dead on. Yeah. I feel confident about this.
Well, we'll find out pretty soon tomorrow with these, at least with the A block finals. We'll see.
Well, Sunday, May 28th at Ota City General Gymnasium. That is the finals. We will have the best of the Super Junior finals. We don't have a full card yet. We did have a question, though. Grunty Dodd said, have they announced if the best of the Super Junior winner gets their title shot at Dominion, or will it happen at a main event on a Road 2 show like last year? And they haven't announced anything yet.
Yeah, on commentary, Charlton has alluded to the winner facing Hiromu at Dominion, but it's not been made official. Yeah, last year, they had the match on the New Japan Road Tour where Taiji defeated Hiromu Takahashi. Hopefully they will get a Dominion slot. I mean, Dominion's only a few days after the Super Junior finals, and they don't have a full card for that show yet. So I think you'd want to do the junior title match there.
Nice. Well, that is going to do it for our best of the Super Juniors coverage. But we did have this past week on Sunday night, New Japan Strong Resurgence from Walter Pyramid.
Yeah, big U.S. pay-per-view here. Interesting, the show was not on Fight TV. Both English and Japanese feeds were on NJPW World through the pay-per-view model. So that was a little bit of a different strategy that they've been going with, that they went with for this show. And we had a question here from Def Triangle 720. How can New Japan improve their marketing in the U.S.?
That is a really great question. I don't know. I mean, without them having like a mainstay television presence, it's kind of hard to answer that. And I'm far from like a marketing like strategist or analyst. Jeremy, you do like more like your job's like based in online marketing. What do you think they should be doing?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think when it comes to live events, especially for pro wrestling, we've seen that TV is a big indicator. But honestly, I think from a digital standpoint, there just needs to be some more consistency with what they're doing. Like, I feel like there is, maybe some like more YouTube stuff that they could be doing. I know they kind of have the I think it's called the NJPW Extra thing they do on YouTube, but I don't know. I just feel like there just needs to be more of a kind of concerted effort on what they're doing digitally with the US. And I think too, they need to utilize the Japanese shows to really kind of drive home what's happening in the US. I know that on the Japanese shows, we've kind of heard on commentary, Chris and Kevin mention kind of in passing what's happening in the US, but your core audience is watching these Japanese shows. There should be more, I think, advertisements, more video packages on the Japanese shows for what's happening in the US. Like on the Super Junior show, like in between a match, there should have been a package that was like, later today, like, Jon Moxley is facing off his team against Okada. We're going to be crowning the Strong Women's Champion. Like, they should be using more of their airtime. Like, you have 100,000 whatever subscribers, New Japan World. Like, how many of those people in Japan and in the U.S. know that you have a U.S. show coming up? These people they're watching your Japanese product, so use the Japanese product and then push them to the U.S. product.
Yeah, the only other thing I can think of, and I agree with everything you said there, Jeremy, is maybe pushing things a bit more online. And what I mean by that is they do a great job promoting everything that they're doing online, but they're doing so much simultaneously all the time that when you're pushing everything, none of it really comes off as being a bigger deal. And when you're doing a pay-per-view that you are relying on people to pay for, maybe you should do a bit more of a push in terms of marketing and visibility and everything like that, because we're going to talk about it. I thought this show was fantastic. I thought that this was, in my opinion, maybe the single best New Japan Strong US pay-per-view they've ever done from a top to bottom standpoint. There are some things to criticize, but to me, this was a pay-per-view worthy show, a show that was worth actually paying money for, whereas many of their other shows I felt like didn't make that mark. And unfortunately, a lot of people didn't see it because maybe they didn't know as much about it.
Yeah, honestly,
there just didn't seem to be the same buzz as some of these other shows in the past.
I didn't realize that it wasn't even on Fight TV until this weekend when I went.
I had no clue about that either.
So yeah, I don't think they did a good job really communicating that. And I think another thing that could help them in the long run is establishing a schedule. Like, for AEW, all right,
that's a great point.
Every May, we know it's Double or Nothing. We know Labor Day weekend, it's All Out. WWE, January it's Royal Rumble. Early March or late March, early April, it's WrestleMania. Like, they have yet to establish what the U.S. like. Every May should be Resurgence going forward if they really want to establish that kind of schedule and knowing, all right, I need to get ready because I know the show is coming.
Right, because we've been to Resurgence and it was in September.
Yeah.
And in Japan, everything pretty much has the same general schedule. So they already know how to do this. They're just not applying it in America yet. But maybe that will change. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got 10 matches to go through. I know we're a little over in time, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll run through them quickly here. But there's a lot of news items on this show too. So the pre-show, we had 2 pre-show matches. The DKC defeated Bateman, 8 minutes and 23 seconds, and Alex Coughlin defeated the Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels, 9 minutes and 26 seconds. Both solid matchups. Unfortunately, these guys had to wrestle almost in front of nobody because I guess people were in the merch lines or what the deal was, but there was nobody in the stands for these matches.
I was told that they were having a lot of difficulty getting in, the fans were having difficulty getting into the building. So it was sort of like a snafu with staff actually letting people in the building, but then there was the production issue where it's we have to go live with this pre-show because we have these time cues. And, ultimately we saw once the show started later on that most of the building, not fully, it wasn't a sellout, but they mostly filled up. But yeah, unfortunately these matches were in front of almost nobody.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see DKC and Alex Coughlin, two of the dojo guys. They got their own new music, which was cool. And they both got pretty big, meaningful wins over established veteran talent, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Then the main show started. We had El Barbaro Cavernario and Virus defeating the TMDK team of Bad Dude Tito and Zack Sabre Jr. And what a great way to open the show.
I loved this tag match. It was totally a Fire Pro style match, but at the same time, it just flowed really well. I did think TMDK should have won here.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I don't understand why the CMLL team didn't do the favor here, but I think probably Virus was you got me wrestling a dude named Tito. We're going over.
Well, maybe they're going to set up a TV title match. Zach's been defending in Ring of Honor, New Japan, all over the place. So maybe Zach will go and defend the title in Mexico.
I don't know, but the match was awesome. I mean, it just really, really great action from everybody involved. And like they were like two side, they seemed like different teams, but like Virus was like the Yave technician to Zack Saber's, technical World of Sport style. And then you had Badu Tito, who was like the powerhouse bruiser of his team. Well, guess what? That's what Cavanario is in Lucha. So like they were actually kind of the same similar team with just different stylings, and they all meshed together so well. I couldn't imagine this match going as well as it did. I was really impressed. I loved it. And I thought that the crowd was really into it too.
Yeah, every guy had a chance to shine in this matchup here, and everybody looked really good. But yeah, Cavanario hit that his submission hold, which usually gets a quick tap out, and Tio tapped out here. Zach tried to make the save, but he couldn't get there in time. Then we had the first matchup in the Strong Women's Title Tournament. Mercedes Moné defeated Stephanie Vaquer 11 minutes and 55 seconds.
I didn't know this before we went on the air, but some of my training partners that have trained down in Mexico with Ricky Marvin were like, hit me up this week and were like, dude, you gotta pay attention to Stephanie Vaquer. And I was like, why didn't you tell me this before I went on the fucking air? I could have been the guy with the scoop that was like, this girl's the next hot thing. I had no clue. And they're like, bro, yeah, she's great. And she was, wow. Mercedes is obviously great, but Stephanie was great as well. This was, of the 3 women's matches, and they were all really awesome, this was the best one of the entire evening.
I agree with you, dude. I was so impressed by Stephanie Vaquer. Like, if I'm a U.S. promoter, I'm calling CMLL right now and be like, I need her on my next show ASAP.
I don't think I've ever seen a female from Mexico that I really was super impressed with outside of like maybe like Sexy Star in Lucha Underground. And it's not that I haven't had that much exposure to too many like luchador females. I don't even know what the technical term is for a female.
Yeah, she
luchador.
called herself an Amazona.
I don't know the terminologies, but she seems like she's gonna be really special. And this match was awesome, high octane. I feel like Mercedes excels more working with someone that's versed in lucha libre than she does, Puroresu, because they really gelled well together. This match was awesome.
Yeah, Mercedes was able to do a lot of her like lucha stuff, her arm drags and her springboard stuff, and and Stephanie was also doing some great stuff as well. Like, super impressed with her. Like, I want to watch more matches of her. Like, if I'm Tony Khan, I'm getting CML on the phone. I'm like, dude, I need you want a challenger for Jade, or you want somebody to bring in for a title match. Like, I'm bringing her in.
I agree.
Then the next matchup was another tournament matchup. We had Willow Nightingale defeating Momo Kogo from Stardom, 9 minutes and 37 seconds.
Again, I don't know Momo Kogo. From what we've been told, she's essentially like a job girl for Stars over in Stardom, but I was impressed. And I guess that's not any kind of shock because we know that the women in Stardom are really fantastic. And Willow Nightingale is another girl who, I've heard Dave say this so many times where he's like, they need to pull the trigger on her over in TK land. And I think that's 100% accurate because she's getting great reactions. She's got great personality, great, presence and connection with the crowd. And I thought that they gelled together very, very well. This is definitely like a David and Goliath type story, but they were in there doing, stiff strikes. And I saw a lot more from Willow Nightingale in this one match than every match I've ever seen from her in both AEW and Ring of Honor. And in fact, I saw more from her in just like less than 20 minutes of wrestling than I've seen in the entirety of her entire time in wrestling for Tony Khan.
Yeah, she definitely, I think, is underutilized. Doesn't get the time and opportunity she needs to truly shine and showcase what she has. Because, this night, she was definitely a star. Looked great in this matchup here. With Momo hits the big gut wrench Dr. Bomb to get the win here. So then after that, I
also want to say, I know that people were kind of balking, and we were probably, at least I know I was amongst those who balked at the idea of this slotting with these 4 women, and it seemed so obvious on paper who was going to win and blah, blah. But once it was put into practice, it was like, oh, we got like this has like that international dream match sort of feel. It's kind of cool. Plus, they had really great video packages for the women leading into their matches too, with interviews and everything.
Yeah. So then following that, we had the Blood Feud continuation, street fight with Rock Hard, Juice Robinson of Bullet Club Gold, defeating Mr. No Days Off, Fred Rosser, 23 minutes and 10 seconds. And we got a question here from Hawaiian Punch BV. Do you think every big U.S. show, New Japan doesn't need to book a no DQ match in it? They always seem to drag down the shows.
Okay, I see what you're saying, and I kind of agree with you. You're right. They probably don't. But this match kind of did need it because it's been leading and booked to it the entirety of the feud. Like, if this match had been a straight singles match after everything that happened leading up to this match, it just wouldn't have made any sense.
Right. I mean, this was kind of a built blood feud based what happened on the Collision weekend with the Juice Rosser match, and then Rosser costing Juice the match against Archer, and the whole thing of bringing Tony Storm in. So overall, I would prefer that, New Japan shows don't always have a plunder match, but this match was built specifically to be a plunder, it made sense for this rivalry.
Plus, like, honestly, nothing against Juice or Fred. I like both of them, but the idea of those two guys going out there and having a catch as catch can style contest in the middle of the show is not that appealing to me. And I might be in the minority here, but I thought this match ruled. I really enjoyed almost not everything. I'm not going to say everything. Almost everything about this match. Obviously, we got to point out that down the tail stretch, Fred Rosser had been name dropping Tony Storm, Juice Robinson's real life wife, and getting her involved in the storyline. And she showed up in the middle of the match, tried to interfere on Juice's behalf. Fred Rosser tried to do the old 1980s pro wrestling trope where he backs her in a corner and then he kisses her against her will. And this crowd, everyone can say that this match brought the crowd down. That is not fucking true. This match was hyped. The crowd was reacting to everything they did. They were hot. And then he kissed Tony Storm and the crowd was like, oh no. Yeah. And it's like, dog, it's 2023. Like, you can't do that anymore. And that did shift the entire tone and tenor of the match from that point forward. And then it got weird.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing's just weird in itself. Obviously, Fred being, openly gay, and then, kissing.
Well, then, like, in the leading up into it, in, like, one of his promos, he said that he thinks he might turn straight for Tony, and he was, like, trying to get in the head of Juice. And I'm like, you're the baby face. This stuff. And then even at the beginning of the night where he walked out with the New Japan Academy is what I think they're called now.
Yeah.
And all the Academy people came out. But, like, I think it was trying to be, like, inspiring, but it came off heelish. It came off as, like, Jay White walking out with the Bullet Club. I'm like, you got Juice Robinson out here by himself trying to defend his wife's honor. And then you got Mr. No Days Off coming out with all of his students. He looked like Cobra Kai. I'm like, this comes off super heelish right now. Like, I don't know if, like, they got their wires crossed. They're portraying him totally. Maybe they're turning him heel though.
Maybe, but the whole booking to me, I think of this rivalry has just been weird. We have Juice, who's clearly a heel, Bullet Club Gold, but then his wife is being dragged into this rivalry, and he's defending the honor of his wife, and the babyface Fred Rosser. Yeah, what is he doing? He's bringing the wife involved. He's kissing another man's wife, even though he's gay, and
against her will.
Yeah, against her. Yeah,
that's the biggest thing. It's not even about sexual orientation. It's about the fact that, like, she did, and then, like, Ian Riccaboni, like, had to, like, completely. He was like, I don't condone this, blah blah. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
He's like, this dude's gonna wake up in the morning and regret having done this, and, like, he's saying that in kayfabe, but also, like, for a shoot, like, you're probably not gonna want to have done this tomorrow.
Right, yeah. And so
and it's like, hey, Sting used to do that back in the day. Ultimate Warrior used to do that back in the day.
A ton of baby faces. You go back in 90s, 80s, I'm sure even 70s, you find that all the time where
that shit don't fly no more, bro. You can't do that.
I'm sure, like, you watch a Miss Sherry managing somebody. Sherry's gonna get kissed by the babyface or whoever. Sunny in the 90s, I'm sure she got kissed by the babyface. And so back then, that in that time period, the way the culture was, that kind of stuff worked. But that shouldn't be flying today.
In the words of Billy Madison, that's sexual assault, brother.
Yeah.
But I really did enjoy the match, and I understand that there's a lot of fans that don't want to see plunder. They don't want to see brawling and blood in their New Japan. Well, this is America, Jack. Okay.
I know. I not as high the match as you are. I felt like it was too long.
It was too long.
Like Fred was beating on Juice for so long at one point, and then
it was too long.
Then they did. I agree. They did the Tony save, but then even like that was like she did the low blow.
Once Tony came in, it didn't make sense. It got overbooked at the end.
Right, like it should have ended when she did the low blow, the Storm Zero. She pulled Juice on him. That should have been the finish, but then they kept going for more after that.
I agree. After that, Juice ended up winning 23 minutes, 10 seconds. Kyle Fletcher came out, and the crowd was, freaking out, very happy to hear his music. Well, they thought it was Aussie Open, and then he came out in a suit with the belts and basically disclosed that his partner, Mark Davis, had suffered an injury and that they're going to be forced to vacate both sets of tag team titles, and that new champions would be crowned at Dominion on June 4th in Osaka. So there was going to be a previously scheduled three-way tag team match between Aussie Open, House of Torture, and Bishamon. Now that match is just going to be Evil and Yujiro from House of Torture versus Bishamon in a tag team bout where the winner becomes the dual IWGP and New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team Champions.
Yeah, so really disappointing news here with Mark Davis going out with a knee injury. Hearing he's only going to be out for possibly 6 weeks, but also we know how New Japan handles announced title.
6 weeks?
Yeah.
What the fuck are we doing, bro? Like, they make exceptions. Oh my God. I don't even want to get into it. Whatever.
But yeah, we know how they'd run with you announce a title match and you can't make it to defend.
No, they don't. That's not true, because they didn't do that for Mox, and they didn't do that for Bright Lights Carl Anderson.
They did do it for Mox for the Tsunami.
The one time, but they didn't do it for the year and a half, almost 2 years of the pandemic that they let him just hold his belt while he didn't defend anywhere. Well, this is ridiculous, bro.
They didn't schedule him to defend.
They haven't done anything for Kenny. Kenny's been champion for 5 months, coming up on 6 months. We don't even know when that dude's going to defend his belt, and he's not stripped, but they got a knee injury. They can't. This is bullshit.
Well, he's not missing. Kenny's not missing a scheduled defense.
That's not the rule. The rule isn't about scheduled defenses. The rule is supposed to be like within a 90-day time period in New Japan specifically.
But whatever. There also is a rule, though, if you're advertised for a title defense and you can't make it, they strip you.
I understand that. But there's also the rule where you need to defend your title every 3 months, at least once in a 3-month period.
Yeah.
Kenny Omega hasn't done that. Why is he champion?
Politics.
It seems to be that if you're the white kind of white wrestler from America or Canada or North America, the big leagues, they'll make an exception for you. But if you happen to be from Australia, well, tough luck.
Yeah. So the reports are that Mark Davis will be back in 6 weeks, but obviously Dominion's coming up before then, and so So Bishamon, House of Torture, double title match. We had a question here from Les Commission 7252. Could we possibly still get Kyle Fletcher in the G1 this year? They could keep him busy while Davis is out, plus earning that spot with his performance in the New Japan Cup. If people see him going far in the near future, this will be a great opportunity for him to show that.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility, but if this is only a 6-week period, it's probably, not going to affect the G1 necessarily one way or the other.
Yeah, unless Davis is out longer, something goes wrong with the surgery or whatever the situation is, then they're probably going to go right back to tags, and they'll probably get the titles back, or at least challenge for the titles before G1. So then following that, we had the Strong Openweight title. Kenta defeats Hikuleo by countout and once again becomes the strong openweight champion.
Very confused about this booking decision, very confused about the match. And, with the whole idea of, I understand that this wasn't a quote unquote no DQ match like Fred Rosser and Juice was, but it does seem weird to have booked something that's so plundery and, death. And I don't want to say death matchy, but blood feudy back to back on the same card.
Right, which I do get. They had been building this whole Kenta and Hikuleo feud, but yeah, why would you do that right after the Juice match or book it on the same show? But again, like you, I don't understand the booking. Like Hikuleo just won the belt, had this big moment in Japan, and now he's dropping the title here by countout, right back to Kenta.
I have a suspicion. I don't know that. I don't want to say this is what's happening, but there was the speculation about what if Tama Tonga was leaving the company. It felt like he was being written off. Seems very suspect for them to have taken the belt off of his brother right after he just won that title, his first major singles title in New Japan, a few weeks later, and to do it in a countout manner. That seems weird to me. I can't remember the last time they changed the title by a countout in this company.
Yeah, it could be that the GOD brothers, maybe they're all heading to WWE, and Tama lost the Never title, and now we have Hikuleo dropping the Strong title here. So yeah, it could be that these guys are leaving the territory. But yeah, the overall is kind of booking and layout of this match was just really weird. And now Kenta's the champion. Post match, we did have Eddie Kingston sending in a video message saying he's challenging whoever the strong openweight champion is. So it seems like Eddie Kingston versus Kenta will be the next strong title match. And after that, we also had a video that announced that New Japan Strong will be headed to Japan for the first time for a pair of pay-per-view events at Korakuen Hall. And these are going to be called Independence Day, and they're going to be held on Tuesday, July 4th and Wednesday, July 5th in Korakuen. And like I mentioned, both will be pay-per-views on New Japan World. They advertised Eddie Kingston, Fred Rosser, Tanahashi, Team Filthy of Tom Lawler, JR Kratos, and the West Coast Wrecking Crew.
At first, when I was like, wait a second, so you're doing a strong event in Japan to celebrate Independence Day in North America. That doesn't quite make sense. But then I saw that they were bringing over several of the mainstay strong talents to Japan, many of them for the very first time ever. So, that kind of makes a little bit of sense, but it is weird. It is kind of like backwards marketing.
Yeah, I made a question here from Hawaiian Punch VV. Are the Independence Day shows about to be the best produced strong shows in its history?
Very likely so, because even though we hadn't gotten into it, I do think that this show was great. And I don't think the production was necessarily bad, but one thing that is a hallmark of being less than major league is when there's not a uniformity to your production. And this show in particular didn't look or sound like many of the other New Japan Strong shows, or even more specifically, importantly, the New Japan domestic product. And I feel like there needs to be some sort of effort to make it all cohesive. It needs to look and feel the same way, or at least that's my opinion.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So yeah, with them being in Japan, they'll have the benefit of the TV Asahi production and crew. And so yeah, those strong shows, so Independence Day shows, should be really great looking shows.
During the Access days, they didn't feel or look like the domestic product, but they were better. They were shot better, so it was like, okay, I can give them the pass because this is shot on better cameras.
Right, yeah.
But these ones are not.
Yeah. So then following that, we had John Moxley and Wheeler Yuta of the Blackpool Combat Club teaming up with Shota Umino to defeat Kazuchika Okada, Rocky Romero, and Tomohiro Ishii.
Yeah, this match ruled. These guys, Blackpool Combat Club, were like quasi heels, but they didn't play it full on heel. They sort of just were like hard-nosed badasses like what they had been previously in AEW. And actually Okada was sort of more like the angry, like kind of dickish veteran, especially when it came to dealing with like Wheeler Yuta and Shota Umino, very much in that like vein of Jumbo Saruta. And it was good to see a cohesive chaos unit together. But the big story of this match, everybody was freaking out when anytime Okada and Jon Moxley went toe to toe or had any sort of interaction. That seemed to be like the big selling point of the match.
Yeah, and the post-match promo, Moxley was talking about, people, they go out there with Okada 30, 45, 60 minutes. It takes you a whole hour to beat a guy. He's like, I can beat Okada in 11 minutes, so I can beat him in 8 minutes. So it seems like they're teasing Okada, Moxley, singles match potentially for Forbidden Door. We know at Dominion that Moxley and his crew will be taking on the Never Openweight 6 champs, Okada, Tanahashi, and Ishii. So maybe we're going to get this extended feud with Okada and Moxley throughout the summer. But yeah, this match absolutely ruled. Shota showed a lot of fire and wanted to take out Okada in this matchup here. And yeah, everybody got a chance to shine here. And the flow between Mox, Yuta, and Umino, and Okada, Rocky, and Ishii were all great. And then you knew once Rocky got tagged in towards the end.
Yeah, you knew it was going to happen.
You know what it was. And Umino hit the Death Rider and got the pin. And when he did the pin, he did the Rainmaker hand pose, kind of mocking Okada.
Yeah.
Then after that, semi-main event, the next match in the IWGP US title tournament, where the winner will face Kenny Omega. This was Will Ospreay defeating Hiroshi Tanahashi, 16 minutes and 44 seconds.
I really thought that this match was great, but to me, what it was basically, and I hate to say this, and I don't mean to sound demeaning, but it was like Will Ospreay doing a carry job for Hiroshi Tanahashi. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say Hiroshi Tanahashi looked bad. Like, we've seen him look way worse than this, but he wasn't wrestling at the level that Ospreay was. Ospreay was pretty much doing most of the flying, most of the bumping, and a lot of the heavy lifting. And Tanahashi was mainly, and this isn't too different from what he's done, but I'm talking about like he really just stuck to these few things. Like he was pretty much just doing regular strikes, some regular chain moving, chain wrestling, and then focusing on the leg, doing a lot of like dragon suplexes, and then, maybe like a sling blade here or there. That's pretty much most of what he did. He didn't do a lot. Ospreay was pretty much just wrestling around him, and it still came off as a fantastic match. This, to me, wasn't in the same league as, like, say, their G1 final match from several years ago, but it was a good semi-main event, considering where both guys are at this point. I'd go, like, 3 3/4 probably, and, Ospreay ended up kind of battering him at the end and hitting him with the what's his finish called?
He hit the Hidden Blade and then the Stormbreaker.
The Hidden Blade and then the Stormbreaker, and got him out there. 1, 2, 3.
So Will move on to face Lance Archer at Dominion, and then the winner of that will face Kenny Omega. So then we got the main event here for the Strong Women's title, the final round in the one-night tournament. Willow Nightingale defeats Mercedes Moné, 9 minutes and 37 seconds, and we had another injury match here where the reports are PWI insiders reporting that Mercedes broke her ankle. So there was a spot there where Mercedes, it looked like she was going for like a code red or a sunset bomb off the top, fell off from the top to the floor, got back in, clearly favoring her leg, could barely move. Willow goes for the Dr. Bomb. 1, 2, Mercedes does not kick out, but then Taito does not count to 3. Crowd is booing.
Yeah.
And then Willow picks her up again for the Dr. Bomb, and this time, Taito got smartened up and counted to 3. And Willow's our first ever Strong Women's Champion due to an audible.
Both women cut very impassioned, spirited promos leading up to the match, which I thought was something that was cool, that added to the presentation of the show. Both of them did wardrobe changes, came out in new gear for the big main event. I especially liked Mercedes gear because they're in California, like Disneyland. She was wearing like a Snow White inspired gear that we'd never seen before, which was pretty cool. And the early portion of the match was like almost all Willow. And Willow was the more domineering force and using her power. And I thought they had great chemistry.
Dude, Willow hit a great pounce, and Mercedes.
Oh, that pounce was awesome.
Yeah.
They were having a great match. And it was very clear at this mark, the 9-minute mark, that Mercedes was in the midst of a comeback. And they're fighting on top. And like you mentioned, you painted the picture, she fell. And yeah, and then she got injured, and that's kind of unfortunate. But the kind of cool thing about it, and it sucks. She got her ankle broken. That's not good. If you really look at the story in totality, Mercedes never got her comeback. She started a comeback. She fell. She got cut off. She comes back in the ring. She gets Dr. Bomb twice, 1, 2, 3. And she just got dominated by a bigger, younger, stronger, more powerful woman who is now your champion.
Yeah, perfect for a rematch.
Yeah, it sets up a perfect rematch down the line. I like the look of the new title. I don't like that it's the exact same design as all the other strong titles, but I like the color and everything. Like, of the 3 belts, I think this one actually looks the best of the other 2 strong titles. I just hate that it's the exact same template.
Yeah.
Post-match, Willow cut an incredible promo, and she cried. And, even though this wasn't what the planned finish, she was very emotional about it and really put over Mercedes. She called her the preeminent, female talent in North America of this generation, which I think is 100% true. And yeah, it does suck. We only got less than 10 minutes for the main event in a match that people were very into. The reactions to Mercedes and Willow and Okada on this night were huge.
Oh yeah,
all 3 of them. I want to see them wrestle again.
Yeah, I think also there's definitely a better match in them. Also, because they got cut short here. So, yeah, I think, you let Mercedes heal. You give Willow some defenses in the meantime. And then you will kind of build Willow up as a good champion. And then you bring Mercedes back as the challenger. And, I got hurt in that match. And now I'm 100% and I'm coming for you again.
The last thoughts I have about this show and what I think put it over for me, it was like, it wasn't just the quality of the wrestling, but it was the crowd was awesome. And then it was the stuff in between. They had cool video packages. They had newsworthy things, announcements, and promos and angles and all these things kind of like leading to create the feeling of a meaningful show and not just a throwaway US byproduct that nobody cares about. This actually felt like it was substantial.
Yeah, definitely. We had a question here from Rambo and Slam Pig. It says, it seems clear that the injury to Mercedes Moné led to an audible, resulting in Willow winning that match and title at Resurgence. Are there any other significant title wins that are known to have occurred as a result of an in-ring audible in NJPW history?
Oh, that's a great question. I can't think of one. There's the famous IWGP tournament finals between Hulk Hogan and Inoki, and it's very, to this day, still disputed. The finish essentially was that Hulk Hogan hits Inoki with the forearm. Inoki's on the apron. Inoki hits the barricade and either gets legit knocked out or sells a knockout. One way or the other, the match ends. Very few people were clued into what was happening. And it's still to this day a disputed finish. Some people believe it's 100% shoot, and many people think it's not.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I don't. Nothing else is coming to my mind right now of other injuries. I mean, I don't think of injury. I think about the Hiromu Kushida match, like the 2-minute title match that they had.
Oh yeah. I'm sure there probably might be others, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, that's going to take us into the news.
Yeah, so very briefly here, Kota Ibushi talked to Pro Wrestling Flosion and said that he's gotten an offer to return to New Japan and that it shouldn't be ruled out as he has seemed to have resolved most of his issues with a good chunk of the people in New Japan. So apparently a return to New Japan is back on the table for Kota Ibushi. Yota Tsuji, who faces Sonata for the IWGP title on June 4th at Dominion, got a singles match for the CMLL heavyweight title on May 14th at Arena Mexico against Gran Guerrero. He did not succeed in winning their title. This Wednesday, May 24th, Orange Cassidy defends the international title against Kyle Fletcher on AEW Dynamite. This Thursday, May 25th, on ROH TV, the ROH World TV Champion Samoa Joe and the NJPW World TV Champion Zack Sabre Jr. will take on the tag team of Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels and Matt Seidel, my trainer. June 1st, Katsuri Shibata will defend the ROH Pure title against Alex Coughlin. And then finally, the Jet Setters make their West Coast Pro debut at West Coast Pro Wrestling Cruel Summer, Saturday, July 8th, 2023. I want to check out that Yota Tsuji Gran Guerrero match.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be a cool match to check out, especially leading up to his Sonata match. Two quick questions here. Rod Easter says, have you watched Sanctuary, a sumo-themed series on Netflix? If so, what are your thoughts?
I want to check it out. I saw it when it came out, read some reviews, got very mixed reviews. And one of the biggest things was they said that the portrayals of sumo, specifically how it was performed and the rules and everything, don't even kind of line up with what sumo actually is, which made me, it'd be like watching a pro wrestling show where, you know about pro wrestling and it's like the shit they're doing is not like realistic to what pro wrestling is.
Yeah.
Made me kind of hesitant to watch Sanctuary, but it's on my radar. I did see it and I might check it out.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet either. So yeah, maybe I'll check it out in the future. And then Hawaiian Punch BB says, thoughts on Lomachenko versus Haney. How would you score it?
I don't want to go too deep into it, but I did watch the fight. I didn't score it. It was a busy night, Saturday night, so I kind of had it on my phone while I was doing some other stuff. And it looked to me like Lomachenko was winning most of the fight. I know it was close. I get that the scorecards were close, and if you thought Haney won, I wouldn't begrudge you. But those last few rounds, especially 10 and 11, Lomachenko was fucking up Haney. I thought he was going to knock him out, to be honest with you. And most of his connected shots were either the jab or body shots. Lomachenko was moving forward. He was pressing the pace. He was the one that was dictating the tempo. He outstruck Haney in every single metric on the entire fight, literally by CompuBox standards. And almost every major analyst thinks Lomachenko won. When they said it was a unanimous decision, I really thought Lomachenko won. I probably would have given it to him like 115, 113. But the thing that's really, really suspect, Dave Moretti who's been judging in Nevada since like the 70s, he gave the 10th round to Haney, the most one-sided dominant round of the fight that Lomachenko fucked up Haney. He gave round 10 to Haney. They need to investigate that fight. I understand close fights, but like, how did all three judges give that fight to Haney? It's really weird. Lomachenko should probably be the undisputed champion right now.
Now let's wrap things up with recommended match of the week. So last week I recommended Claudio Castagnoli defending the ROH title against Robbie Eagles for the excursion match of the week.
I really enjoyed this match. I'm not following the ROH product, so I did see some complaints from people that follow it faithfully that were complaining that they didn't set this match up in any way. Like Claudio's been doing title defenses, but the guys that he's defending against, their names, they're meaningful challengers, but they're not earning the title shots. It's sort of like they're just being given out. Some people don't like that, but in terms of the actual match, it was very, very, very good. The only big, downside is like it was less than 9 minutes long. These two guys, if they were given enough time, they have a really killer classic in them because the chemistry was wild. They had an awesome match. One thing I didn't like, Claudio did apply a modified octopus stretch on the ground for like a minute and a half of an 8-minute plus match. So like 1/8 of the match was spent in a hold on the ground, which is probably not the best way to utilize your time. But once they got out of that and they started getting popping, it was nothing but high speed, back and forth action. Obviously, Robbie was focusing on the legs and, kind of utilizing the game plan that we've seen him use many times. So it was kind of a match between speed versus power. But these two guys are consummate professionals. I think they have a classic in them. The match was awesome. I'd probably go like somewhere between 3.25 and 3.5. They just didn't have enough time, but like it was a really great TV style match. It'd be an awesome opener for most Dynamites.
Gotcha. Then for the recommended match of the week, you recommended Tatsumi Fujinami versus Kengo Kimura.
Oh, and I guess I should tell everybody, ultimately, Claudio caught him in the Ricola bomb, hit him with a couple knees, and then dropped him for the 1-2-3.
Fujinami Kimura, I don't know, man. I had a hard time getting into this matchup.
You don't like wrestling?
I mean, yeah, there was a lot of wrestling, a lot of chain grappling for majority of this match. Like the first 10 minutes is straight up like these guys just exchanging holds and grappling. And then there's like an intense like kicking sequence, and then they go right back to the wrestling grappling until you get like towards the end at like a 23-minute mark. It's a crazy pile driver from Kimura, then a plancha from him, then a suicide dive, then this like big like top rope drop kick, and then it goes to the, I guess, time limit draw.
I don't recall. I haven't watched that match in a few years. I do know that there's a lot of down points, but I know there's also a lot of high spots that like are not typical of that time period.
Yeah, they were all like kind of like towards the end, but yeah, once they got to that, it was pretty crazy towards the end there.
What would you go like star ratings on this one?
I'd probably go like 3.5.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So what you got for excursion match this week?
Well, let's keep it easy peasy this week. I know you're going to watch Dynamite, so why don't we do a review of Orange Cassidy, my favorite pro wrestler in the world. Being facetious, but Orange Cassidy versus Kyle Fletcher, which I'm sure will be good.
Nice. And then for the recommended match of the week, we're going to go back to the Walter Pyramid. We're going to go to Fighting Spirit Unleashed 2018 Golden Lovers versus Kazuchika Okada and Tomohiro Ishii.
I thought you were going to give me Kenny versus Jay Lethal. That's a great match.
From the U.S. Tournament.
Oh, that wasn't from Walter Pyramid, was it?
No, I think that was, I forgot which, that was a different.
It's like a convention, the Long Center or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, awesome. Yeah, I look forward to checking that out.
Well, all right. That's going to wrap things up for us this week. Next week, we'll be back to review the semifinals and finals of Best of the Super Junior 30. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation. Visit socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. You can follow the network at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, we are facebook.com/Social Suplex. You can also find us in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Instagram, we're at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, just keeping a strong style. You can also check out our Discord server, Social Suplex Podcast Network. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Lala and James Boyd. The Grave Consequences, hosted by Caleb and Maserati. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd and Austin. The AEW Match Guide podcast, hosted by Sir Sam. And the Great Match Generator, hosted by Danny Kukler. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.